Chapter 455. In the distance. The area was really eye-catching, and the mountains and rivers lost their color. The battle between Dao realm experts had broken away from the low level of fun. So what if the sky collapsed? That was a scene of the dimension collapsing. Who wants to frame us? Su Yuanming was in deep thought. He thought of all the possibilities that he could think of. Lin Fan, Alliance, Buddha Alliance, Monster Alliance, etc. But the biggest possibility was the Alliance and Buddha Alliance. As Lin Wani's son, Lin Fan was indeed in danger. But Lin Wani hadn't appeared until now. Although there were benefits to instigating conflict between the four alliances, the benefits were limited and it wasn't worth the risk. So, the biggest possibility was the Alliance. If the four alliances fought, the Alliance would gain the most. As for the Imperial Dynasty, they were just puppets, and there was no need to worry about them at all. Hayes, what is the point of thinking about all this? Alliance, you are really skilled. You actually hid so deeply. Su Yuanming's head hurt. There was nothing he could do. Buddha Alliance and Celestial Alliance were definitely the ones who did it. They wouldn't be able to clear their names, even if they wanted to. Shortly after, Su Yuanming didn't care about the situation and went to find White Lotus St. Purity Mountain's Guyuan. He had to ask what was going on. If Buddha Alliance was really involved, he would definitely know. Imperial Dynasty. King Wudong dismissed his followers and left the main hall. He walked towards the depths of the Imperial Dynasty. On the path deep in, many experts were hidden in the darkness. Rebel, you deserve to die. There seemed to be a furious voice spreading into King Wudong's ears. But because of the royal family bloodline, he was unobstructed and wasn't stopped at all. Very quickly, King Wudong came to the deepest part, and there was no path ahead. There was a multicolored light barrier blocking his path. Ooh! He took in a deep breath, and like he was gathering his courage, he stepped into the barrier. The moment he stepped in, King Wudong's body turned transparent, and one could see the veins and meridians in his body. The dark path that they had just walked through had disappeared without a trace, and only a wall was there. Brother, don't worry, I know what to do. This is the only thing I can do. At this moment, King Wudong came to a stone room. The stone room was very large, and there was a path paved with ancient bricks that extended into the distance. On both sides of the path was a bottomless, pitch-black abyss, for which angry roars could be heard from time to time. King Wudong walked on the path, and after a long while he reached the end. A stone coffin was placed there. The surface of the sarcophagus was engraved with patterns of unknown beasts, and the surface of the sarcophagus was stained with dark blood. King Wudong pushed the stone coffin and wanted to open it, but it was too heavy. It was so heavy that he couldn't move it at all. Even if he used all his strength, it was useless. Shortly after, King Wudong took out a letter. This letter was from a long time ago, like it was hundreds or even thousands of years old. He opened the handbook and searched for the introduction inside. Soon, he found a solution. He cut his wrist and dripped his blood on it. Drip, drip. The fresh blood fell on the stone coffin, and in the blink of an eye, it was absorbed. Kacha! The sarcophagus shook, and then the lid of the coffin moved, opening a crack. This is recorded in the ancient handbook of the royal family, but the last page was torn off. What was recorded on it? King Wudong found these letters hidden in every corner of the imperial family book hiding room. In the end, he came here. He didn't think too much about it. No matter what, he wanted to see what was inside. Something that could be placed in the royal family definitely wasn't simple. When King Wudong opened the sarcophagus, gray smoke surged out from within. Cough, cough. He coughed and waved his hands to dissipate the smoke. He then looked into the sarcophagus. King Wudong was shocked. He thought that there would be something shocking within, but regretfully, there was nothing. There was just a statue that was the length of an arm. Who knew what it was made of, but it gave off a black glow. This statue wasn't a human, but it looked like a human. It had goat horns on its head, many tentacle-like whiskers, many eyes on its body, and a pair of wings on its back. What is this thing? King Wudong had never heard of such a thing and had never seen such a thing before. But he could sense an uncomfortable aura from the statue. The aura was a little evil. After holding the statue for a long time, he felt his blood turn cold. Dangerous thing. King Wudong placed the statue down, and his breathing became rushed. He felt that this wasn't a good thing, and it contained a shocking danger. He turned around and left. But as he walked, his footsteps slowed down. He hesitated and thought about it. In the end, he returned to the sarcophagus and picked up the statue once more. He looked at it carefully. Slowly, King Wudong felt like he was being attracted by the statue. Scenes appeared in his mind. In a world where the sea of blood surged, the monsters that were tens of thousands of meters tall harvested the lives of all living beings. Everywhere they passed, not even a blade of grass grew. Not a single living thing could survive. Pata! King Wudong's face was ashen white, and he took several steps back. The statue in his hand fell to the ground. His back felt cold, and he was terrified. Even if it was just a scene, it was enough to give him an irreversible deterrence. How can the imperial dynasty have such an evil thing? King Wudong was filled with disbelief. If he hadn't personally experienced it, he wouldn't have believed that it was real. He opened the letter once more and very quickly found the records. Evil God, Masaki, Shinfeng, ancient ruler, destroyer, tempter, terminator of power. King Wudong didn't understand what it said, but it gave one a feeling, which was that it was really overbearing and strong. He didn't know what to do. The letter recorded that one could use blood to communicate with the ancient ruler. But he was afraid. Things that were too mysterious would always make one panic. But the letter recorded that one could obtain power from the evil god. What King Wudong lacked was power. If he was strong enough, all of this wouldn't have happened. The alliance and the sect would have been wiped out, and his brother wouldn't have died. He could also be a carefree king and didn't need to worry so much. The blood of 10 kids. Evil thing. No matter how powerful this king is, this king will absolutely not do such a thing. King Wudong took in a deep breath and placed the statue back into the stone coffin. He turned around and left without turning his head. Right as he was about to leave, a voice spread into his mind. You will come back. No, I won't come back. King Wudong left the place. A few days later, Lin Fan knew that the war between Evil Alliance and Celestial Alliance had reached an unstoppable stage. He wanted to join in, but the situation didn't allow it. He was really busy now. Young Master, this is the last sect in our territory. Why don't you let me go up and solve this for you? Go Zi said. He wanted to solve all problems for Young Master. Now was the chance. Su Zhao said, Sect leader, just leave this to me. You don't need old dog. Go Zi looked at Su Zhao. This was interesting. He actually wanted to snatch this from him. He was bold and had ideas. He really didn't expect that. Lin Fan waved his hands. Let's go up together. We are here to negotiate and not to fight. Even if we occupy the territory, we have to talk to them. Since leaving Marshall Path Mountain, he hadn't gotten off the ground and was carried by them. His days were carefree and carefree. No matter what it was, Go Zi would be able to handle it well for him. Suddenly, there was a ruckus. At the same time, footsteps could be heard. He raised his head and looked out. Lin Fan was stunned. What was going on? He saw many people carrying big and small bags down the mountain, just as Lin Fan and the others were stunned. Among the people who came down, an old man bowed. Welcome, Sect Leader Lin. Our moon-gazing sect will leave now and give this place to Sect Leader Lin. Please give us some time. The disciples are packing up. All of you. Lin Fan was in deep thought. Had his prestige spread all the way here? Moon-gazing sect leader thought that he was unhappy and broke out in a cold sweat. Sect Leader Lin, don't be too emotional. We could have given up this place long ago, but because we have never seen you, we waited until now. We wanted to see your face and remember it in our hearts. In the future, we will spread your name and let more people know about it. Lin Fan said, Spread my name? Are all of you filled with hatred and want to find others to take revenge? How is that possible? That is impossible. Moon-gazing sect leader shook his head. Lin Fan really wanted to reply. To say that it was impossible? Your 999 plus made him so happy that he was about to die. Forget it. It wasn't easy to live outside. Not only did they move, but they also provided rage points. What else could he say? Hurry up. From now on, this This is Marshall Path Mountains territory. Find your own way out. Lin Fan said. Moon-gazing sect leader was delighted. Sect leader Lin has helped us a lot. My sect can't even make ends meet, and I can't take it anymore. I was just about to disband and find a place to live. Some sects just made one feel helpless. One could say that he had a temper. After all, he could provide rage points. But one couldn't say that he didn't have a temper. They just arrived at the foot of the mountain and didn't even go up. They didn't even say a single word, and Lin Fan moved the entire sect. They were just too cowardly. For these sects to go all out against the alliance, it was already not bad that they didn't betray them. The disciples came down one after another, and each of them stared at Lin Fan's face for a long time. They would never forget the sect leader's tearful complaints in front of them. Since the sect was in trouble, they should all go and protect their own lives. The main culprit of all this was this person. They shouted in their hearts, "Life is full of ups and downs. Just you wait and see. We are still young, and the future is full of changes. Although you are young, we aren't afraid of you." Chapter 456. With moon-gazing sect's departure, 1,000 miles around was Marshall Path Mountains territory. There are no small factions left. Of course, there was still a city in this region. This was a city that the imperial dynasty had forgotten about. At the same time, it was a city that the various sects didn't notice. Thinking about the top sects, which one of them didn't control for the 5 cities and form a dynasty. No matter what, Lin Fan was a domineering presence. He was the sect leader of Marshall Path Mountain and used the chief god belief system to casually create experts. How could a normal person have such ability? Su Zhao, bring some people to take down the city around Marshall Path Mountain. Remember not to harm the lives of the commoners. If those aristocratic families resist, just teach them a lesson. If they're willing to scram, then tell them to scram. Lin Fan said. Su Zhao was waiting for something to happen. Now that the sect leader gave the orders, he didn't even think about it and hurried towards the city. Lin Fan really didn't know how to choose a location to place Marshall Path Mountain in such a broken place. There were just too few resources. Just looking at the city, one could tell that a sect in a city wasn't much. But all of that didn't matter. They would slowly develop. Didn't they see that Marshall Path Mountain's territory had already expanded to 1,000 miles? In the future, they would only continue to expand. Let's go, let's head back. Lin Fan waved his hands, and the group left. After coming out for so long, they had gained a lot. In his words, everything was really calm and peaceful. They didn't face any problems at all. Those factions were really calm, and when they knew that Marshall Path Mountain had arrived, they all obediently gave up their land. Mountain City. It was a really normal city, and there was nothing shocking about it. It couldn't compare to those true big cities. There were aristocratic families in Mountain City who occupied an area. The imperial dynasty was wiped out, and Mountain City became a city with no one managing it. Naturally, those aristocratic families had thoughts like changing from aristocratic families to city lords. When such a thought appeared, it lingered in his mind. But there was more than one aristocratic family in Mountain City. All of them wanted that, so what could they do? They could only compete with one another. Unfortunately, when Su Zhao came to Mountain City, everything was different. Su Zhao brought people to spread the news to every corner of the city. Listen up, from today onwards, Marshall Path Mountain will be in charge of this city. When Su Zhao said this, Mountain City was in an uproar. To the common people, they didn't care. As long as they could live a good life, it was fine. It didn't matter who controlled Mountain City. But to the aristocratic families of Mountain City, who could be so arrogant? As for Marshall Path Mountain, he had never even heard of it, so where did it come from? Of course, there were many people in Mountain City who knew about Marshall Path Mountain's existence. Lin Fan had wiped out some of their properties. Thinking that it was dangerous outside and that he had nowhere to go, he came to Mountain City to be a comfortable commoner. Who knew that Marshall Path Mountain would progress so quickly and actually stretch their hands to this place? How terrifying! Was there really no place for them to stand? To Su Zhao, those aristocratic families were like a group of ants. They collapsed without any room for resistance. After all, Su Zhao's strength had reached the domain realm. He nearly became a Tao realm expert. How could those aristocratic families face them? The gap between them was huge to begin with. Marshall Path Mountain. Zhang Tianshan was so excited that he was about to jump up. This kid's brain has been enlightened. He has really been enlightened. His biggest thought was to strengthen Marshall Path Mountain, but he had no choice. That kid was just so useless. Who knew what he was doing every day? But now, the heavens had opened their eyes. That kid finally knew how to develop Marshall Path Mountain. Zhang Tianshan had nothing to do in Marshall Path Mountain, but to make Marshall Path Mountain more holy, he studied formations every day and merged them into Marshall Path Mountain. Although he was weak, so weak that he couldn't be considered much. However, the will of man triumphed over the heavens, absorbing the power of the earth and the might of the sky, forming a formation that even Tao realm experts would have to pay a price for. Since Liang Yongqi returned from the outside world, he followed beside Zhang Tianshan. Sect Leader Zhang, I learned my first formation. When will you help me take a look? Liang Yongqi asked. Zhang Tianshan said, Not bad, work hard. When I have time, I will help you take a look. Look at how good Liang Yongqi was with his words. When no one was around, she addressed him as Sect Master. How sensible of her. Liang Yongqi nodded his head. There were more and more people in Marshall Path Mountain, and his status was different. He was the senior brother of Marshall Path Mountain. In the past, he didn't feel that his status was different. But later on, when a Long Rainbow Sect disciple called him eldest senior brother, his mentality changed. So, was it so good to be licked? That night, Lin Fan was thinking about something in the room. If he didn't get the legacy of the Darkness Chief God, he wouldn't care about the territory that he occupied. But it was different now. He urgently needed faith. The God domain in his body changed. The God Hall appeared perfectly, but it was still empty. There were more buildings that needed to appear. To form a complete Darkness God domain, he needed more faith. The key was, during this period of time, he gained a lot of faith. Many of the Darkness Chief God's legacy techniques appeared. To be direct, they were just to bluff people. Lin Fan controlled the faith in the God domain to travel through the dimension and descend into Mountain City. At the same time, he used the Chief God's technique, Dream Realm. That night, the commoners in Mountain City dreamed of a statue that gave off a golden glow. It was said that those who believed in the Marshall Path Mountain Chief God would be protected. At the center of the city, a statue appeared out of nowhere. It was Lin Fan's face. Since he occupied the territory, then naturally, he had to make use of it. Although the commoners were weak, they could provide faith. Moreover, if faith reached a certain level, it could raise their strength. Just thinking about it made him feel good. The next day, the morning sun covered the city. When the commoners saw the giant statue, they were so terrified that they sat on the ground and muttered to themselves. Last night's dream. They all had a dream last night, and something happened in the dream. But as it was a dream, it didn't give them a strong feeling. Who did this prank? Who placed the statue here? The commoners gathered together and were lost. They didn't know what was going on. In a secluded corner of Mountain City, in an old and broken house, a woman waited uneasily. A sigh spread out. Hayes. The doctor felt the pulse of kid and then released his hand. He shook his head. He can't be saved. Let's prepare for his funeral. The woman panicked. Doctor, take a look. Why can't he be saved? He definitely can be saved, please. The doctor broke free from her hand. He really can't be saved. His illness is incurable, and I don't know where to start. The woman sat on the ground and looked at her son. She cried, He is only 3. Why is his life so tough? No, there has to be a way. There has to be. Instantly, the woman recalled the scenes from last night's dream. She didn't experience everything as she had to take care of the kid. She would often rest for a while and then wake up. But she remembered some things from the dream. Shortly after, the woman carried her son and ran outside. When the neighbors saw the woman carrying the incurable child, they all shouted, Sister Xiang, where are you going? Sister Xiang didn't reply and just ran into the distance. Let's go take a look. Sister Xiang is so pitiful. Her man died, and now her only child is about to die too. We can't let anything happen to her. Let's go take a look. Then, the surrounding neighbors followed closely behind. They were also very worried. In the center of the city, that statue made many people feel weird, but no one knelt and prayed to it. Something that appeared out of nowhere. Who knew where it came from? It should have been done by Marshall Path Mountain, who controlled Mountain City. Their goal was to tell everyone that this was their territory. Maybe that was the case. But just at that moment, the commoners all stopped. Sister Xiang ran over with her child and knelt on the ground. "Save my child, please save my child." Some of the commoners recognized who was kneeling in front of the statue. "Isn't that Sister Xiang from the east of the city? I heard that her son's illness is incurable and the doctor is helpless." "Hayes, what is the use of kneeling? Can she even appear?" "Right, but she is really pitiful. I can only say that her life is tough." Sister Xiang knelt there and didn't say a word. She prayed in her heart and didn't care about what the people around said. This was her only hope. The neighbors who followed oversaw Sister Xiang kneeling there. Some of them wanted to say something, but they were pulled back and shook their heads. "Don't disturb her. This is her only hope. If we don't even allow this, then that is just too cruel. Once she gives up, she will slowly recover." Everyone nodded their heads in agreement and didn't say anything more. Time passed slowly. The sky turned dark. The commoners all returned home, but when they passed by, they still saw Sister Xiang kneeling there. To them, there was no need for her to do that. Why'd she have to do that? Everything was fake. How could that statue save her son? The next morning, the streets were filled with people, and everyone looked at Sister Xiang in shock. It had been a day and night, so why was she still kneeling there? At the same time, they realized that her child's breathing became really weak, like he would leave at any moment. Hayes. So tragic. Not only did she lose her man, but she also lost her child. This is a huge blow to her. Marshall Path Mountain. Lin Fan thought about it. Damn, a day passed, and she didn't have any faith at all. Did he do something wrong? But that was impossible. That didn't make sense at all. But suddenly, a soft voice rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Within the faith lines, the source of this voice was a little special. What? Lin Fan was stunned, but he was really curious. This had never happened before, or was this a new function that appeared after the development of the God domain? Chapter 457. Very quickly, Lin Fan understood what was going on. Although he wasn't in Mountain City, but he could understand what was happening in Mountain City. The kid is about to die, and he needs to ask for help. Lin Fan thought about it. If it was in the past, this would be a complicated matter, as he didn't have medical skills. But now, it wasn't a problem at all. In the Darkness Chief God Legacy, it was normal to use faith to save others. As expected, this proved a problem. The Chief Gods needed to use some methods to develop believers. Maybe this is a chance. Mountain City. Sister Xiang, stop kneeling. This is useless. Look at your son. His breathing is getting weaker and weaker. Cherish your last moments with him and don't waste it here. That's right. Everyone persuaded and hoped that Sister Xiang would understand that it wasn't wise to waste time here. But Sister Xiang didn't bother about them. She continued to kowtow, and blood could be seen on her forehead. "Please, save my son, please." To others, Sister Xiang had gone mad. Hayes, Sister Xiang has really gone mad. They didn't believe that a miracle would happen just by kneeling and praying to a statue. That was just impossible. Moreover, such a thing had never happened before. But suddenly, everyone felt their hearts suddenly become heavy. Look, some commoners noticed that the statue was acting weird, and they shouted out in shock. At that moment, everyone looked towards the statue at the center of the city. An eye-catching light exploded from the statue, and its aura covered the entire city. The commoners who were covered felt an urge to worship it. When Sister Xiang saw the shining light, she started to kowtow even more. A ray of light swept over, lifting Sister Xiang's son into the air. To everyone, this was a miracle. Many of them even had a thought. Was the dream last night real? Shortly after, a chief god image floated up from the statue. It was holy and majestic, and the light shone down. The commoners felt like they were bathing in a warm sunlight. But that wasn't the main point. The main point was, what was that image? Also, what would happen to Sister Xiang's son? Instantly, the illusory figure moved, and a finger slowly landed on the child's forehead. With a ding sound, ripples of light spread out from the child's forehead like waves. It was so piercing that everyone couldn't open their eyes. Gradually, the light dissipated. Everyone was in a state of confusion, until a voice broke the silence. "Mother!" Aunt Xiang's son stood there, crying uneasily. "Child!" Aunt Xiang pounced forward and hugged her son. She looked him up and down and couldn't see any problems. The doctor who took a look at Xiang Sa's son was there too. When he saw this, he ran over and felt the child's pulse. His expression changed, and he exclaimed in shock, "Miracle! This is a miracle! He's actually fine now." The doctor was extremely shocked, as if he couldn't believe it. Sister Xiang pulled the kid and knelt down in front of the statue. She prayed sincerely and muttered about the darkness chief god. This was what Lin Fan had just transmitted to the other party. At that moment, the surrounding commoners witnessed the miracle and were shocked. They surrounded Aunt Xiang. "Aunt Xiang, what happened just now? Why did the statue respond to you?" "That's right. How did you do that?" The commoners were all stunned. If they hadn't personally witnessed it, they definitely wouldn't have believed it. It was just a normal statue, but it suddenly shone brightly, and the kid who was on the verge of death was instantly healed. Aunt Xiang got up and said, "It was the darkness chief god. He saved my kid. We believe in him, and the noble chief god will protect us. My kid was saved by the chief god." To the commoners, this was just too huge of a blow. Very quickly, the commoners all knelt in front of the statue. No matter how good the advertisement was, it wasn't as convincing as personally witnessing it. Moreover, not only did they personally witness it, but Aunt Xiang's kid was on the verge of death. In the blink of an eye, he was jumping around. That was just too shocking. Martial Path Mountain. Amazing, she actually has max-level faith. Lin Fan was shocked and a little stunned. He consumed faith to help her so that people would know that a miracle had descended. But now, his gains were a little shocking. That woman's faith actually reached purple, which was the highest level. If he raised her cultivation, she could become a Dao realm expert. Wait, let me take a breather. Lin Fan thought about it. Things were a little shocking, and the development was just too sudden. He obtained purple faith believers so easily. Of course, maybe this was all due to the right time and place. Aunt Xiang was at a dead end. Her son had a really high position in her heart, and when she was in despair, the god of faith gave her the greatest hope. So at the crucial moment, she exploded out. Her faith directly reached purple. Not bad. If I have more of such believers, then it would feel great. After going through this matter, Lin Fan was in a good mood. The world is so huge, and it isn't easy to occupy it. But if I use faith to control it, then it might be much simpler. Because of this matter, Lin Fan slowly had some ideas. He wasn't in a rush. If he took things slowly, there would be a chance. Xiedao sect. When old demon Wu Wei learned that Xiedao sect was attacked, he rushed back right away. When he saw the state of the sect, he was so furious that he nearly exploded. Xiedao sect's blood demon faction leader was badly injured. After asking, he found out that 4 Dao Realm Stage 6 experts came. The hall leader fought 1 against 4, and in the end, he was badly injured. If not for the experts defending the sect, the outcome would have been catastrophic. This was premeditated. What did 4 Dao Realm Stage 6 experts mean? They were the strongest experts of the top sections. Now, they actually sneak attacked Xiedao sect. If they didn't attack together, he wouldn't have believed it. Old Demon Wu Wei was furious. They were just bullies and didn't care about Xiedao sect at all. Since they wanted to fight, then they would fight. The Alliance headquarters wanted to instigate a war between the 4 factions. They didn't hesitate to use some hidden methods. Of course, Monster Alliance was also invaded. If they didn't drag Monster Alliance in, then wouldn't it be so boring? White Lotus Saint Purity Mountain. Su Yuanming arrived, and the disciples at the entrance welcomed sect leader Su. They knew that this person had a close relationship with Gu Yuan. In the hall, Brother Gian, who was the one who attacked Xiedao sect. As one of the leaders of Buddha Alliance, you definitely know something. Su Yuanming asked directly. Gu Yuan smiled and reached out. Sit, we can talk about it slowly. Su Yuanming looked at Gu Yuan and kept silent for a moment. He then sat to the side. Buddhist incense burned between the two of them, which could calm one down. Brother Gu Yuan, why do I feel like you know something? Su Yuanming opened his mouth. He had a close relationship with Gu Yuan, and they had known each other for close to 70 years. Brother Yuanming, if someone asks me who I believe in, I will tell him that I believe in Buddha. But if I have to choose one person, I will say that I believe in you. We met when we were young, and I was just an unassuming guard monk. You were a genius disciple of Guasian Island and had a high status. The gap between you and me was just too huge. But fate is hard to say. Since we have known each other for so long, I won't lie to you. I did all of this. Gu Yuan said calmly, and his expression didn't change at all. Su Yuanming looked at him in shock. Everything I said is true. Gu Yuan said. He knew that Su Yuanming couldn't accept it, but it was okay. He would slowly accept it. I really didn't expect that. Su Yuanming shook his head and said, why do we do that? Causing a war between the four alliances won't do us any good. It will only give the alliance a chance to expand their territory. At that time, we will lose too much strength and we won't be able to do anything to the alliance. Gu Yuan said, it is okay. I have already discussed all of this with the alliance. They just need evil alliance and monster alliance's territory. Ha! Su Yuanming smiled and shook his head. Gun, have you become dumb from cultivating? You even believe what the alliance says. When the time comes and the alliance cleans up Buddha alliance, what will you use to block? Not you, but us. I have already told the alliance that you will be with me. Gu Yuan said. Su Yuanming looked at Gu Yuan. Why are you so sure that I will be with you? Gu Yuan, don't think too much. When the time comes, it will be too late for you to regret. It's still not too late to stop. Evil Alliance and Monster Alliance might not want to fight, but if they do, the situation will be out of control and we will fall into the Alliance's trap. Gu Yuan shook his head. Celestial Alliance is made up of 3,000 sects, and the 10 top sects control it. Although Guasian Island is strong, their control over Celestial Alliance isn't big enough. If you want Guasian Island to control Celestial Alliance, then the chance is right in front of your eyes. Think about it. Opportunity and danger coexist. Even if you're playing with a tiger, as long as you have a chance, you can gamble. Moreover, don't be so pessimistic. Lin Wani isn't dead, and the Alliance is most worried about him, and not us. During this period of time, it will be our chance. Think about it. Su Yuanming frowned. Gu Yuan's words made sense, but it was too dangerous. One wrong step, and everything would be wrong. He didn't expect Gu Yuan to be so bold. A long while later. What do you want to do next? Su Yuanming asked. Gu Yuan said, let's wait and see. Don't bother, and let them develop. Don't be the peacemaker. Evil Alliance's old demons are violent, and they will start a war if they don't agree with each other. We just have to provoke them and let them fight. When they are badly injured, that will be our chance. What vicious thought. Su Yuanming sucked in a deep breath like he didn't expect Gu Yuan to have such a plan. Think about it. I will wait for you to decide. After all, we are friends and I don't want to lie to you. Gu Yuan said. Then, Su Yuanming left this place. After he left, Gu Yuan said, I believe that he will make the right choice and not attack my friend. Chapter 458. Su Yuanming didn't expect things to be like that. No matter how he thought about it, he didn't dare to think that Gu Yuan would have such thoughts. To start a war between the four alliances and he would reap the benefits. No, wait. Gu Yuan wanted to bring him, but for some reason, he felt a little dangerous. He was afraid that Gu Yuan would sell him out. If Gu Yuan knew what Su Yuanming was thinking, he would grumble. He treated him as a true friend, but he thought that he would sell him out. Couldn't he trust him a little more? Martial Path Mountain. Go Z, serve young master, washing clothes and cooking. Of course, to let Mu Gang take over, Go Z reluctantly passed the task of washing the undergarments to her. As for letting her get close to young master at night, that was definitely not going to happen. He wouldn't allow Mu Gang, as a maid, to seduce his young master just to become a phoenix. Her status wasn't good enough for his young master. Liang Yongqi walked with his arms behind his back and looked around Martial Path Mountain. His talent was recognized by Zhang Tianshan, and he praised him for being a talented kid. If he worked hard, he would definitely become a formation master. He had walked out of the pain of losing his family. Youth was gone, and it was useless to think too much. He could only look at everything in front of him and work hard. In the future, when he had the ability, he would take revenge for his father, brother, and sister. Senior brother. Hello, senior brother. The disciples from Long Rainbow Sect all greeted him respectfully. It was as though they had entered the role of a Martial Path Mountain disciple. Liang Yongqi nodded his head as a reply. He continued to look at these disciples. He was really envious. How did all of them become so strong? Why were they so weak when they came to him? As the senior brother of the sect, he wasn't the strongest. That was a little hurtful, but he didn't think too much about it. His position as senior brother was picked up, and it wasn't a loss at all. Thinking about Yuan Tianchu, he felt like it was a waste. A perfectly good person was actually crippled for no reason. Although Yuan Tianchu was much better than before, he still felt like something wasn't right. In the past, he didn't dare to meet Yuan Tianchu, as he felt like he was being weird and weird. Liang Yongqi stood in front of the closed door and was in deep thought. He decided to have a good talk with Yuan Tianchu. It wasn't a good thing to be so depressed. He raised his hand and knocked on the door. The door suddenly opened, as if it wasn't locked at all. Walking into the room, he saw Yuan Tianchu lying on his bookshelf. His expression was wooden, and the dark circles under his eyes were a little heavy, as if he hadn't slept for a long time. Junior brother Yuan, I'm here to talk to you. As the big apprentice brother, Liang Yongji decided to have a good talk with junior apprentice brother Yuan, hoping to save him from his depression. After all, this was what a big apprentice brother should do. Martial Path Mountain, Main Hall. Zhu Shun said, "The battle between the four alliances is really intense. This is a huge upheaval, and it is a disaster for us. The alliance headquarters has started to move, and in just a short while, their territory will expand once more." Lin Fan didn't care about this matter. The more chaotic it was, the better. Even if the four alliances fought, it had nothing to do with him. Damn top sects, they should suffer the consequences of their own actions. It doesn't matter. They can fight their own battles, and we will develop our own. Right now, everything within a 1,000-mile radius is under our control. After a period of time, we will expand outwards. However, I want to know where my father is and where old Wu is. Has he met up with my father? This was what Lin Fan was thinking about. As for Cousin, he didn't need to worry about him. He still had faith, and with the transfer of power, Cousin's cultivation had reached Dao realm. He was an expert, and he definitely had his own fortuitous encounters, so he didn't need to worry too much. How would Jushin know where Master Lin was? Unless Master Lin himself appeared, it would be impossible for others to find him. But for now, he was at ease. The four alliances were in a conflict, so they didn't have time to care about young Master Lin. Being wanted was a huge headache, but things were much better now. To those factions, the most important thing was to fight. Nothing else mattered. Young Master Lin, we are expanding too quickly. If we attract attention, it will be problematic. Zhu Shun was worried. He would never understand how strong Lin Fan was. It was a helpless situation. Lin Fan said, "What problems can there be? Don't worry. The situation is different from before. If they really come, they will regret it. The most important thing now is that I want to find my father. Tell Zhang Tianshan to make a portrait. I'm going to search for him when I expand. It might be hard to find him, but I believe that once we expand to a certain extent, my father won't be able to hide." Zhu Shun was stunned, and beads of cold sweat appeared on his head. Young Master Lin really dared to think. Normal people wouldn't even think about it. Lin Fan looked at Zhu Shun and asked, "Don't you think that what I said makes sense?" "Makes sense? It really makes sense. Young Master Lin, I realize that you are a talent in this world. A genius, a genius." Zhu Shun raised his claw, which meant that he was giving him a thumbs up. If not, he really had nothing to say and didn't know what words to use to describe him. Respect? There was no way to describe it. During this period of time, what Lin Fan didn't know was that the factions that he chased out weren't willing to give up. Damn. They were all old factions, so why did he chase them away? Was it because he was strong? If that was the case, then that was just too much. They were extremely indignant and felt that Lin Fan was a little too arrogant. Thus, after they left, they started to promote the existence of Marshall Path Mountain. Of course, naturally, they couldn't promote how strong Marshall Path Mountain was and how overbearing they were. What would he do if she was scared to death? So, what they promoted was that Marshall Path Mountain had obtained a treasure. That day, they saw a light cover the entire sky. So how could it be a normal treasure? As for other people asking them about Marshall Path Mountain's strength, naturally, they said that it was just SOSO and that it wasn't much. Anyway, in their words, it was really simple and obvious. If they could lie to one person, then that was good. Whoever could kill people from Marshall Path Mountain was the best. Especially moon-gazing sect. The sect leader gave in too quickly. He told the disciples that a wise man didn't fight when the odds were against him. He didn't want them to sacrifice their lives for the sect at such a young age. All of them had a bright future. Cultivate well, and in the future, take back the sect and step on Marshall Path Mountain to make them repent for what they did that day. Moon-gazing sect leader was good with words and was good at influencing the atmosphere. Those disciples clenched their fists, and unwillingness appeared in their eyes. However, they didn't lose hope for the future. Thus, some disciples teared up and said goodbye to the sect leader. They wanted to head out to train and fight in dangerous places to raise their cultivation. In the future, they would step on 7-colored clouds and hold treasures to kill their way back. Moon-gazing sect leader sent them off and heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, he managed to bluff many more disciples away. He really wanted to keep them by his side. He couldn't support his daily expenses. It was good to be young, to have the heart to fight back against the unfairness of the world. People like him were already so old and had gotten over it. This world was a survival of the fittest, and the weak had to be beaten up. It wasn't something that could be solved by being young and rash. The 4 alliances were in a war. The top sects joined in, and a portion of mid-tier sects joined in. However, there were many sects who didn't dare to show their heads. If the top sects told them to join in, then they would. If not, they would hide their heads and not show their heads. Thus, only some normal sects were interested in the Marshall Path Mountain that those people promoted. They were attracted by the treasures. As for the others, they weren't important. Imperial Dynasty. Your Majesty, the Alliance is really ambitious. They're attacking those sects so that our soldiers can charge. If this continues, it will be a huge loss for the Imperial Dynasty. Zhu Xiang reported. The Alliance headquarters wanted to attack some normal sects, but no matter what they did, there would be casualties. King Wudong obviously knew what the Alliance was thinking. They wanted to slowly whittle down the strength of the Imperial Dynasty and not allow them to get stronger. But now that the Imperial Dynasty couldn't fight against the Alliance, even if such a thing happened, they could only accept it. Lu Xian said, General Zhu, casualties are inevitable. Zhu Xiang stared at Lu Xian in rage. Casualties are inevitable, but the Alliance headquarters is obviously sending the Imperial Dynasty to die. To attack a normal sect and send normal soldiers to charge. Do you think that is appropriate? Normal sect experts were Grandmaster and God Essence realm. The strongest sect they faced was only a 5-element realm. To true experts, this realm wasn't strong, but to the soldiers of the Imperial Dynasty, he was like a ghost or a god. King Wudong didn't have many experts by his side. Even the helpers he roped and were only thinking about the benefits of the Imperial Dynasty. It was impossible for them to risk their lives. Strength. What they lacked was strength. Just at that moment, the Alliance envoy arrived and realized that the atmosphere in the hall was really tense. He smiled. King Wudong, did I disturb all of you? King Wudong smiled. No, why are you here? The Alliance envoy said, Your Majesty, I am here to pass a message to you. The 3 sects that we have broken will be handed to you, but the 4 cities that we have reclaimed will belong to the Alliance. This is the Alliance's decision, so I am just here to inform you. If there is nothing else, then I will take my leave. The envoy came quickly and left quickly too. The hall was really silent. King Wutong's fingers grabbed the handle of the throne. As he used too much strength, his fingers turned white. To him, the Alliance headquarters wanted to show their cards to the Imperial Dynasty. They wanted to tell them that they could do whatever they wanted and that the Imperial Dynasty had no right to reject them. Only by listening would they be able to live longer. What a bully. Zhu Xiang felt really frustrated. When he looked at Lu Xian, who was smiling, he really wanted to chop him to death. Lu Xian had joined the Alliance long ago. All of you leave. King Wutong gritted his teeth. He suppressed the rage in his heart and waved his hands. The people in the hall looked at one another and then left slowly. King Wutong closed his eyes. He recalled that voice in his mind. You will be back. Chapter 459. King Wutong rested on the throne. From the start till now, he knew that the throne wasn't easy to sit on. When he was still a carefree king, he didn't think about becoming the emperor. When he was young, his father told him that he wanted to sit on the throne. Although he was young, he knew that the throne wasn't suitable for him. His ability to take pressure was too weak. It was easy for his mind to collapse. This was why he agreed with his brother becoming the emperor. That was because if he had a good relationship with his brother, he would be able to have a more comfortable life. Today, his brother placed such a heavy burden on his shoulders. He only felt tired, really tired. Facing the Alliance's threats, he really didn't know what to do. He felt like he could collapse at any moment. The rage was real, and he couldn't hide it. Maybe only rage could vent the unhappiness in his heart. If he became the new emperor, the Alliance wouldn't do anything to the Imperial Dynasty. They would just bully him. But for now, they wouldn't destroy the Imperial Dynasty. After all, he was rebelling. No matter whether or not it was real to the outside world, he was really rebelling. But if he let his nephew inherit the throne, he would have died to the Alliance. That night, King Wutong came to the stone room and stepped in. He knew that he couldn't turn back. He needed power. He needed power to solve everything in front of him. He stood at the entrance of the stone room and looked into the darkness. There seemed to be a demon smiling there. I know that you can speak. I need power, absolute power. Nothing will fall from the sky. If you have any requests, then just say it. King Wutong hollered. His voice reverberated in the stone room. He hesitated, but very quickly, he tossed it aside. Since he was here, he knew that he couldn't turn back. If he turned back, he would lose. He wouldn't even be able to fight back against the Alliance. You are back. Not long later, a voice spread out from the coffin. King Wutong frowned like he had been slapped in the face. Moreover, it was quite a heavy slap, like he was being slapped left and right. That person was right. He was back. There's no need to feel confused and lost. Evil God Masaki Shinfeng understands you better than yourself. Your heart is telling me what you need, but you just don't want to believe it. Come over and take me out. Let me feel your heart. Evil God's voice was filled with temptation as he slowly tempted King Wutong. King Wutong was expressionless. He knew what he needed, and the evil god was his only hope. He knew that he was making a deal with the evil god and that he would be doomed. But even if he had to pay a huge price, he had to do it. He opened the sarcophagus and took out the evil god statue that was only as long as an arm. Oh, I can feel it. There is evil hidden in your heart. As expected, only evil people would come here. The justice you think is just your disguise. The voice of the evil god seemed to come from the netherworld. Stop talking so much nonsense. You just need to tell me what you want. King Wutong said coldly. He didn't want to interact too much with evil gods. The evil god chuckled. Didn't I say it last time? The fresh blood of 10 children, you can go now. As long as you complete my request, I will give you what you want. King Wutong struggled and hesitated. He then left without turning his head. Wait for me. Not long after, King Wutong brought 10 kids over. Father, where is this place? Father, I am so tired. I want to sleep. King Wutong struggled, and his eyes were bloodshot. He said softly, as the children of the royal family, you have a natural responsibility. The royal family needs you, so you should learn to give. His children didn't understand what he said. They just felt that his father was weird. Why did he say all this? You're really quick. It seems like when you need strength, everyone will become decisive and efficient. You are such a person. Evil God smiled. Although Evil God was just a statue, it gave King Wudong a feeling that the dark stone room was filled with Evil God eyes. King Wudong looked at the statue. I hope you can keep your promise. Evil God said, Don't worry, I've always kept my promise. King Wudong gritted his teeth. His hand that was holding the sword trembled. He hesitated, and in the end, he closed his eyes. When he opened them once more, his eyes were filled with determination and coldness. He raised the sword in his hand and stabbed down. Children, I am sorry. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Pucci. The sword pierced his chest, and he fell to the ground. Fresh blood flowed out. Father, don't kill me. Father, Pucci. Pucci. The stone room was really silent. It was so quiet that only King Wudong's breathing could be heard. There was also the fresh blood that flowed down from his sword. King Wudong's eyes were filled with blood, and tears flowed down his face. He raised his head. Evil God, it is time for you to fulfill your promise. Evil God didn't say anything. After a long while, Evil God's voice spread out. Vicious, you really are vicious. I just need fresh blood and not life. You're really amazing. Ha ha. I like it. I like your viciousness. Evil God laughed. But truthfully, he was stunned. Although being an evil god was inhumane, even evil God would have to think twice before killing a bunch of his sons just because of a disagreement. Quang Dang. The sword fell from King Wudong's hand. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. You played me. Evil God said, I didn't play you. You are the one who made a mistake. I didn't say that I wanted life, but I only said fresh blood. You. King Wudong clenched his fists and his palms turned green. Okay, but now it is time for you to fulfill your promise. The fresh blood on the ground seemed to be attracted and flowed onto the evil god statue. Instantly, the evil god statue gave off a weird red light. You want strength, but I can't help you. But I can help you raise your strength quickly. Feel it. Your future will start to change. At that moment, a red light exploded from the evil god statue. Like a Milky Way, it instantly covered King Wudong. Ah! King Wudong screamed in pain. His body felt like it was about to be ripped apart. Pain, it was really painful. His heart buzzed, and it felt like it had stopped beating. His mind was in a mess. There was a loud explosion. King Wudong's head fell to the ground, and he lost consciousness. Kakik, evil god laughed. His smile was dark and terrifying. Your Majesty, your Majesty. King Wudong felt a splitting headache like his head was about to be ripped apart. Son, King Wudong sat up. Sweat flowed down and soaked his clothes. He panted heavily. When the person serving at the side saw that, he walked up. Your Majesty, King Wudong reached out and told him not to come over. But suddenly, what terrified him was that his 5 fingers turned into 5 black tentacles that stabbed into his body. Gulp! Gulp! In the blink of an eye, the eunuch disappeared from King Wudong's eyes like he had never appeared before. King Wudong lowered his head and looked at his palm. His pupils constricted like he had seen a ghost. How did this happen? What happened? Why did this happen? He thought back to the evil god statue. He fainted in the stone room. So why did he appear here? Shortly after, he felt that there was more power in his body. This power came from the outside, but it merged with him to strengthen his body. At that moment, he thought back to what evil God said to him. He couldn't give you absolute power, but he could let you gain it quickly. Is this method to steal other people's power? King Wudong was in deep thought, and he felt like he had fallen into a deep abyss. But he needed power now. Only by being strong could he fight against the alliance and break free from their control. But when he thought about how his 10 sons died in his hands, his heart was filled with deep guilt. Sons, I won't let you die for nothing. King Wudong's eyes shone fiercely like he had already decided on something. Since that was the case, then he would use this strength to revive the imperial dynasty, chase the alliance out, and suppress those top sections. Once everything succeeded, he would hand the imperial dynasty to his nephew. He wasn't prepared to continue living. 100 miles away from Marshall Path Mountain, a bunch of factions gathered together. They were all duped over and called themselves Marshall Slaying Alliance. Actually, to be more direct, all of them wanted to get the treasure from Marshall Path Mountain. At that moment, a middle-aged man with a mustache said, "What dogs hit Marshall Path Mountain? Once I get there, I will use my horse slaying technique to slice him into pieces. Don't fight with me for it, otherwise I will turn on all of you." Why are you so arrogant? Do you think you can kill anyone with your broken blade technique? Forget it, I won't argue with you. My request is simple. If Marshall Path Mountain has women, they are all mine and none of you are allowed to snatch them. I want that territory. I want silver and nothing else. If there really is a treasure, then we will sell him and split the money. If anyone tries to play tricks, then don't blame us for being vicious. Marshall Slaying Alliance had many people and dozens of experts. They didn't even reach Marshall Path Mountain and didn't fight with them before they split the items. As for whether or not the person who spread the news of Marshall Path Mountain coming wasn't important. To them, those people were just dogs that lost their homes, and even if they came, they would just lose face. That night, a bunch of people finally came to the foot of Marshall Path Mountain. Everyone sized it up and realized that this Marshall Path Mountain wasn't much. There wasn't even a single disciple guarding the gate. Everyone exchanged glances with one another and saw the smile in their eyes. What kind of sect could such a sect be considered a sect? Look, there's a pig there. Are all of you hungry? Why not eat a pig to replenish some strength so that we can chop people up? That makes sense. Who will capture the pig? Let me do it. I am familiar with this and can tell right away that it is a male pig. As long as I imitate the sound of a female pig, it will definitely be attracted over. Look at me. A burly man walked out and put his hands to his mouth. Kiki. P.S. Tomorrow I will head to Shanghai to travel overseas with Yuwen. To me, it was just changing my writing location overseas. I am used to using computers, so when the time comes, I will head overseas to find internet cafes. Chapter 460. The sound of a sow is hee-hee. I searched it on Baidu, but there might be some mistakes. I don't raise pigs. Hee-hee. Hee-hee. The muscular man's hands formed a trumpet shape, and he imitated the sound of a sow. It was quite interesting. Zhu Shun returned from scouting outside and was prepared to head up the mountain when he heard a weird sound from behind. For some reason, Zhu Shun felt like a certain hormone in his body started to swell up. That didn't make sense at all. Zhu Shun felt that it didn't make sense. He turned into a pig and had the thoughts of a human. But there was still the hidden nature of a pig. Zhu Shun suppressed his restless heart and turned his head. The sound spread out from the bushes. Hee-hee. The person hiding in the bushes saw the fat little wild boar get close and was really emotional. Amazing. I didn't expect that you would actually succeed. You really are a talent. The surrounding people praised, and the way they looked at each other had changed. The burly man smiled proudly. Then, he shushed them and lowered his voice. Don't speak. Wild boars are really sensitive, so don't scare them away. When they get close, we will pounce on them. Whether or not we can eat a good meal will depend on whether or not we can succeed. Maybe it was because he felt like his expertise was respected by others. The burly man's words were very unyielding and full of vigor. Whatever I say is right. All of you don't need to talk nonsense. What is going on? Zhu Shan frowned. Marshall Path Mountain had nothing to do with the rest of the world. Moreover, the sound just now obviously belonged to a human. Who was sick in the head to make such a sound? He wanted to find out the truth. Who was so bored? The moment Zhu Shun got close. Grab! Instantly, several people pounced out from the bushes. About his leg. I grabbed its tail. Wah! Don't look at this little wild boar. I didn't expect its legs to be so tight. Zhu Shun was stunned and didn't react. Although he had turned into a pig, no matter what, he was still a Dao Realm Stage 3 pig. Now that someone was grabbing his leg and praising it for being tight, wasn't that infuriating? Preposterous, let go. Zhu Shun hollered in rage. He dared to be so casual. Did he really not know how to spell the word death? Listen, did someone speak just now? I don't think so. I didn't hear anything. No, listen carefully, there really is. The bunch of people who grabbed Zhu Shun were confused. They didn't know where the voice came from, but they knew that someone was definitely talking to them. Zhu Shan was furious. His aura exploded, and with a loud explosion, he pushed a bunch of people who were grabbing him away. He said furiously, "I am the one who spoke. Who are all of you? How dare you appear on Marshall Path Mountain?" The Marshall Killing Alliance members were blown all over the place. They looked at one another and then at Zhu Shan. Someone exclaimed, "A monster! If a pig could talk, what else could it be other than a monster? Run!" Instantly, a bunch of them ran. Some of them stayed on the spot, and their greed exploded out. A pig that can talk. It definitely isn't a normal pig. Let's capture it. Who cares about Marshall Path Mountain? Just this pig is enough for us to earn a huge sum. Those who are timid will starve to death, and those who are bold will be stuffed to death. What are you hesitating for? Don't be afraid. Capture him. These people were really bold and didn't think so much as they pounced towards Zhu Shan. Zhu Shan's title was the top blade of the imperial dynasty in the past, and he wasn't a good person. Especially after he turned into a pig, his mentality collapsed. Now that someone was provoking him, how could he take it? "You are asking to die." Zhu Shan raised his leg and stomped down. The space around sunk and a huge pressure struck them. To those people, it felt like their bodies were under a huge pressure. It instantly shattered and a pool of blood splattered across the sky, dyeing the entire area red. You dare to cause trouble in Marshall Path Mountain with just this bit of strength. You are just asking to die. Zhu Shan took a look and turned around. He twisted his butt and walked up the mountain. Although the pig body was small, it contained huge strength and wasn't something that could be suppressed by these people. As for those who fled, he didn't care and allowed them to leave. In the distance, the bunch of people who fled raised their heads and looked into the distance. To them, there weren't any screams, but they saw the sky covered in blood. How terrifying! How cruel! Those bastards lied to them that this place wasn't safe and that it was dangerous. Marshall Path Mountain was really terrifying. What was the point of thinking so much now? Run. Zhu Shan heard a lot of news from the outside world. It was similar to what he knew. The battle between Celestial Alliance and Evil Alliance was really intense, and even Buddha Alliance and Monster Alliance joined in. At the same time, the Imperial Dynasty worked with the Alliance to clear out the normal sects and expand. But he also wanted to find out where Master Lin was. Unfortunately, he didn't find anything this time and didn't even have any news. The situation is a little complicated and chaotic. It is a disaster for normal people. Zhu Shan underestimated. He didn't defend the border for any reason other than to acknowledge Lin Wani and follow him to fight against the Alliance. But many of the people there hoped to protect the normal people behind them so that they wouldn't face a disaster. But he also heard that those people who retreated from the border were all hiding. Occasionally, when they had a chance, they would deal a destructive blow to the Alliance. But it was really difficult to find them. Lin Fan didn't sleep and laid outside to rest. When he saw Zhu Shan return, he asked leisurely, "Did something happen at the foot of the mountain?" Zhu Shan replied, "A bunch of fools who came from nowhere squatted outside Marshall Path Mountain. I dealt with them, and they probably won't come again." "Oh." Lin Fan didn't ask, and just looked at the night sky. "Zhu Shan, look at the moon. Isn't it big and round? It is really beautiful." Zhu Shan raised his head and blinked. "Beautiful? Village? No, it should be called City of Darkness." It was a village that Lin Fan passed by and snatched their statues. In the end, he became the true god of the villagers. At that moment, there was movement outside the village. Several people sped about. "Old Master, Little Miss, there's a village ahead. Let's hide there, and we will definitely be able to break free." They came from family in a certain city. Due to the Alliance, they were chased, and many of their people died. Only a few of them managed to escape. Xiao! Suddenly, a cold light slashed through the sky and struck the person who spoke. With a pucci, his arm was sliced off. "You aboriginals sure are fast. However, what's the use of being fast? We'll still catch up to you in the end." Several people walked out from the darkness with cold smiles on their faces. To them, this was like a game of cat and mouse. They would play with them for a while, and when they were sick of it, they would deal the final blow. Old master, little miss, leave. The rest of you follow me. A battle erupted. The battle was really intense, and it ended really quickly. The one who called himself an old servant was beaten until he vomited blood and fainted. The old master and young mistress did not leave and also participated in the battle. However, at this moment, they were on the verge of collapsing. Just as they were about to faint, they saw an old man with a hunched back slowly walking out of the village. They lost all their senses and fainted. Who knew how long passed? Shue Jinru opened her eyes and screamed in panic. She remembered that they were in despair and were about to be killed at any moment. Later on, he faintly saw a figure walking out of the village, and then he lost consciousness. "Father!" she shouted in panic, but didn't get a reply. She looked around and realized that she was in a foreign house. Was he saved by someone? She got up and carefully pushed the door open. Shortly after, she heard her father's voice and ran over. "Father, are you okay?" Shue Zhong shook his head. "I am okay. We were probably saved. However, let's not talk about that at that moment." Shue Jinru noticed that in the center of the village, many villagers were kneeling with their palms pressed together like they were praying. Silent, there was no sound at all. "Father, they seem to be kowtowing to that statue." Shue Jinru said softly. Shue Zhong nodded his head. A secluded village would worship some weird things. Maybe that is the village's totem. Old master, that old man isn't simple. The one who called himself an old servant said softly. He sensed a terrifying aura from that old man. Although he retracted it, the aura he gave off made him panic. Shue Zhong was stunned and nodded his head. He thought about some things. Many experts like to live in unassuming places and pretend to be normal people. Perhaps they had met such a person and were saved by him. If that was the case, maybe this was a chance. After a long while, those people who were kneeling on the ground slowly got up. Shue Zhong stepped forward and said respectfully, "Thank you, Senior, for saving my life. Words cannot express my gratitude. Please accept my bow." The village chief was stunned like he couldn't react. What were these people doing? Why was there a need to be so polite? The village chief's stunned expression made Shue Zhong confirm that the old man in front of him was definitely an expert. "Last night, I heard some sounds outside the village and came out to take a look. I saw all of you lying there, so I brought you back. You need to be careful outside, but don't worry. The people here are simple. If you don't have anything urgent, you can stay here for a period of time." The village chief said. Shue Zhong replied, "It was good to stay here for a period of time. There was an expert here, so there was nowhere safer than here." "Senior, may I ask where is this place?" The village chief said, "This is Darkness City, and the villagers here are all normal people. We are protected by God, so this place is really safe." Shue Zhong felt a little dizzy and confused. That was because Senior's words shocked him. Protected by God? What was that? Chapter 461. There was a reason why Shue Zhong was stunned. To him, the village chief was definitely an expert who lived here in seclusion and lived like a normal person. But now that Senior said that they were protected by the god, how could he accept that? Damn, what was going on? The village chief saw his confusion and smiled warmly. He pointed at the statue in the village. "That is the god in our hearts, the darkness chief god. Our village worships him for generations to allow our village to have good weather." No, the chief god said that in the future, this isn't a village but a city of darkness. Shue Zhong wanted to see if there was anything wrong with the other party's expression. But regretfully, the village chief's expression was like that of a crazy believer, and one couldn't tell that he was faking it all. Shue Jinru said, "Chief, last night we were chased. Who knows where those people went?" The village chief said, "Those people have left this place according to the will of the god and won't appear again. Don't worry, although we won't be able to give you a luxurious life in Darkness City, we can ensure your safety. It is late and I have to get back to work. If you have nothing to do, you can go take a look. This place isn't big and there aren't many villagers, but they're all friendly and there won't be any danger." After saying this, the village chief smiled and walked into the distance. After the village chief left, Shue Jinru was shocked. Father, this place is so weird. Do you think it is safe for us to stay here? Hayes, although this place is weird, at least it is safe. If he really wanted to harm us, he wouldn't have healed us, and we could only stay here. Shuezhong said. He then thought about something and said with a vicious expression, "Those damn alliance." He could only say some vicious words. As for the rest, he didn't know what to say. There were some things that they couldn't go against. The old servant who had been staying by his side said, "Master, since we can meet a hidden expert here, it means that there's a chance placed in front of us. If Miss can take him as her master, she will definitely be able to revive the family in the future. Even if it's to avenge the madams, it won't be a problem." Speaking of the madams, Shue Zhong's heart hurt. Only the few of them escaped from the Shue family. The others all died at the hands of the alliance. However, he was right. This was indeed an opportunity. Daughter, the opportunity is right in front of you. If you can take him as your master, the future of the Shue family will be rewritten. Shue Zhong said. Shue Jinru was troubled. Father, that senior said that he was the village chief. It would be difficult for me to take him as my master. No matter how difficult it is, we have to try. Let's take a look at the environment first. Father will deal with it at night, Shue Zhong said. He would not give up this chance. If he missed it, it would no longer exist. The Shue family old servant was really strong, but he was only a god essence realm. But in the hands of the alliance, he couldn't even take one strike, and one of his arms was sliced off. Subsequently, they walked around the village, looking at the environment and the situation around them. The villagers were simple and honest. When they saw them, they smiled. Shue Jinru looked into the distance. There were two kids playing there, innocent and carefree. It had to be said that this place was indeed a paradise, and it was very difficult to be discovered. Suddenly, she saw the kite in the kid's hands fly into the sky. The kid wanted to grab it, but as it was too high, he couldn't. He was so anxious that he spun around on the spot. She wanted to help, but instantly, she saw a woman carrying a basket back. When she saw the kite in the sky, she floated up and took it down. Shue Jinru looked on in disbelief. She rubbed her eyes like she had seen wrongly. What was going on? That was a seemingly normal woman, but why did it feel like she was flying? That night, Shue Zhong and the others came to the chief's house and knocked on the door. Senior, are you asleep? Very quickly, the door opened from the inside. The chief asked curiously, "Is there a problem?" He felt that these outsiders who were saved were really weird. When they saw him, they called him senior. But he was just a normal villager. Although he was the chief, he wasn't a senior. "Senior, if you are not busy, can you let us in?" Shue Zhong asked. No, come in." The chief was really confused. He really didn't understand what was going on and didn't know what was going on. The decorations in the house were really simple, and one couldn't see the elegance of an expert at all. There were even farming tools placed at the corner. Things like chessboards, tea sets, books, etc. There were no hidden items that an expert should have. Shue Zhong didn't care about that. Instead, because of that, he was even more certain of his thoughts. The person in front of him was definitely an expert. He was also an expert amongst experts. It was obvious that he gave up everything in the past to live here. They were lucky to meet such an expert. If his daughter could become his disciple, she would definitely be able to revive the Shue family. Put on. The chief was prepared to pour tea for the few guests. When he heard that sound, he turned his head. When he saw the guests kneeling on the ground, he was terrified. He hurriedly helped them up. "What are you all doing? Get up. He was just the village chief of an ordinary village. He was really just an ordinary person. Now that a group of guests were kneeling down, the village chief, who was already old and had never seen the world, was shocked. Shue Zhong insisted on kneeling on the ground. "Senior, can you listen to me?" The chief felt that if he didn't speak, he might really kneel for a long time. "Speak." Shue Zhong didn't hide anything and told him about their background. For example, they faced the alliance, and many of their people died. Only they were alive, and their families fought to the death to protect them. The chief was really kind, and when he heard that, he was so touched that he cried. They lived here and didn't fight with the rest of the world. If not for the protection of the gods, the entire village would have died. This was why he could understand how he felt. Shuizhong saw Senior cry and thought that Senior was definitely a sentimental person. Senior, this is my daughter. I don't have any other intentions. I just hope that Senior can take my Shui family into account and take her as a disciple and teach her the martial path. In the future, if there's a chance, she can also revive the family. Shuizhong's expression was emotional as he kowtowed and shouted. The chief didn't know what to do. Taking a disciple? What did that mean? Guys, I'm really just a normal villager and not the senior that all of you call me. All of you, please get up, the chief said. Shuizhong shook his head. Senior, if you don't agree, we will kneel and not get up. Please save our Shui family and give us one last bit of hope. The chief exclaimed, It isn't that I don't want to agree, but I am really just a normal villager and not the senior that all of you call me. You want this girl to be my disciple, but I have nothing to teach her. The situation now was a little complicated. The chief wasn't lying. He was really just a normal villager. Shuizhong and the others weren't wrong. The chief was a really strong expert. Senior, I know that an expert like you won't casually take in disciples, but you can test her. Shuizhong felt that it was really difficult to take an expert as a disciple, but he believed that sincerity could move metal and stone. As long as he was determined, he would be able to move him. Senior, it is late, so we won't disturb your rest. Shuizhong knew his limits. It was already late at night, and even if he wanted to take him as a disciple, he had to let him rest. If he made him unhappy, then it wouldn't be worth it. The chief looked at Shuizhong and the others with a stunned expression. His words were still the same. I am really just a normal person and not the senior that all of you call me. Even if he took her as a disciple, he didn't know what he could teach her. Of course, he could tell her the secrets of farming. Senior, rest early. Sorry for disturbing you, Shuizhong said, and then closed the door for him. Outside, a cold wind blew. Shuizhong said, Daughter, this matter isn't so easy, but you have to hold on. It is hard to meet an expert, and if you meet one, you have to grab the chance. If you miss it, you will really miss it, and there won't be another chance in the future. Shuizhong nodded. Father, I understand. She knew what kind of burden she had on her. She was the only young person alive in the Shui family, so all the pressure was on her. Okay, thank you for your hard work. Kneel at his door and let him know your determination. If one day isn't enough, then 2. If 2 days aren't enough, then kneel until he takes you in as a disciple. I believe that you will be able to move him. Shuizhong said firmly. It was tough to find a master, but it was even tougher to find a hidden expert. It definitely wasn't easy. Shuizhong nodded her head. She knew that this was the only chance, so without her father telling her, she knew what to do. As for Shuizhong and the others, naturally, they went back to sleep. They were too practical and made one feel helpless. The next day, the chief woke up early. When he opened the door and saw someone kneeling outside, he was shocked. Why was there someone kneeling there for no reason? The chief explained to her, but no matter how he explained, she didn't believe him. He didn't know what to say. Shuizhong was sure that this was a test for her. If she couldn't even pass such a small test, how could she have the right to become his disciple? Every morning, the chief would bring the villagers to kneel in front of the statue and pray. If Lin Fan was here, he would be able to see endless faith flowing towards the depths of the void like a galaxy. Shuizhong knew that his daughter had knelt there for an entire night, but Senior didn't agree. He knew that things weren't so simple. He had to continue working hard, but he was confused. Who was the statue that Senior was kneeling to? Did it represent something? Old Master, this is a long-term thing for little Mississippi. To move him, she has to show her sincerity. The old servant said. How could Shuizhong not understand? He nodded his head. I believe my daughter. Many outsiders came to the village. To the villagers, there weren't many changes, and it was still the same as usual. After a long while, a day of praying and worshiping ended. The chief carried his hoe and headed to the fields. Since the god came, the chief felt like his body was much stronger. He could jump really high and fly in the sky. The last time he waved his hoe, a piece of land disappeared in front of his eyes. He knew that this was the power that the god gave him. so he was careful and didn't dare to cause too much commotion. In the fields, the chief waved his hoe and did the work that he had to do every day. He was used to it, and if he didn't do it for a day, he would feel really uncomfortable. Shue Jinru looked on without blinking. She hoped that she could comprehend some top cultivation techniques from Senior's waving of the hoe. She knew many stories. For example, when Senior wanted to teach her skills, he wouldn't say it. He would just do some normal actions, but no one knew that there was a shocking technique hidden within. Shue Zhong and the others didn't disturb Senior and just looked on. After a long while, there was a loud explosion. The ground seemed to be shaking. A black shadow struck from afar. Shue Zhong and the others were really wary and thought that it was someone from the Alliance. But shortly after, a voice spread from afar. "Hello, village chief." In their eyes, the huge black shadow was actually a villager carrying a huge rock. He was running towards them as if he was flying. "What are you doing?" the chief asked. "Village chief, I am prepared to use this stone to carve some statues." The guy smiled. He didn't feel how heavy the stone was at all. It was as if he was carrying nothing at all. Shue Zhong's eyes opened wide as he looked at those scenes. This guy was really young, but he had such strength. He wanted to shout out loud. "Senior, you said that you didn't know how to teach disciples. Otherwise, how would you explain this?" At that moment, the village chief's position in their hearts rose to a certain level. If they thought that the village chief was an expert who hid from the world, then now he was an expert amongst experts. Shue family servant was shocked. "Village chief, this young man's cultivation has probably reached 5-element realm." "What?" Shue Zhong's eyes opened wide like he had seen a ghost. 5-element realm? What kind of realm was that? What kind of shocking cultivation was that? Most importantly, he was still very young. To be able to reach such a level of cultivation at such a young age was simply unheard of and unseen. "Daughter, you have to hold on. Shue family's future really depends on you." Shue Zhong only had one thought in his heart, which was to make him his master. The chance to become a phoenix was right in front of his eyes. Noon. The village chief carried his hoe and walked towards the village. He looked at the guests and opened his mouth. "I know what all of you are thinking. Forget it. I shall tell all of you. I didn't cultivate my strength, but it was given to me by the god. The other people in the village are the same." The village chief thought about it for an entire morning and finally understood. He knelt in front of him and wanted to be his master because he wanted to obtain such strength. Since that was the case, then why not spread the news about the god? Shue Zhong listened on. He looked like he was serious, but in his heart, he didn't believe what Senior said. The village chief didn't care about all that and continued. "Follow me. Let me introduce all of you. Village. This is the god that our village worships for generations, the darkness chief god. It has been a long time since the last time he appeared. For us to have such strength is because we believe in the god. The god gave us strength so that we can have a better life." Shue Zhong looked at the chief and then at the statue. He then said with a troubled expression, "Senior, this," even if the chief said that, he still didn't believe it. Who was he lying to? One could obtain such terrifying strength just by believing in this so-called god. Why hadn't anyone said that before? It was fake. It had to be fake. Such a thing couldn't have happened. The chief looked at the statue in respect and said, "I know that all of you don't believe me, but you can ask the others in the village. They will tell you the same thing. If you want to obtain strength, you can let go of everything and believe in the darkness chief god. When you are loyal to a certain level, the god will give you strength." Shue Zhong, Shue family old servant. As for Shue Jinru, she was totally stunned by the chief's words. But in the end, they still looked towards the statue. Then, they looked towards the chief like they were communicating with each other. Really? It was definitely true. "Okay, I believe you. Don't lie to us." Maybe Shue Zhong really believed him because he felt that the chief didn't seem like he was lying. Marshall Path Mountain. I didn't expect that outsiders would come to the village. Interesting. Lin Fan knew what happened with the chief. As long as he had faith, there was nothing he didn't know. But what nearly made Lin Fan laugh to death was that these people actually treated the chief as a senior and wanted to be his disciple. One had to say that these people really had their own thoughts. Hayes, life is really interesting. Lin Fan had already raised the limits of what young people could achieve by far, far too much. In the past, those who could reach Grandmaster realm at 20 could be said to be geniuses among geniuses. Now, not to mention Grandmaster, even 5-element realm was normal. As for Tao realm, one day in the future, it would be really normal. To raise the level to a certain level alone, how were the geniuses of the top sex supposed to survive? They basically didn't need to. They could just shout 666 from the side. The chief god system was decent, and it was the best way to create experts. As long as he continued to increase his strength, then the people who believed in him would also reach a terrifying level. That was strength that others might not even be able to obtain, even if they risked their lives. Today, Lin Fan wasn't in a rush to expand his territory. He was prepared to head to the 4 alliances to take a look. He didn't know how they were fighting and whether or not they were fighting with their lives on the line. The key was that he needed rage points to raise his cultivation. Tao Realm Stage 3 was strong enough. However, what he wanted was to crush his opponent, not to be evenly matched with his opponent. In his opinion, that would be embarrassing enough. Chapter 462. Young Master Lin, you can't do that. The 4 alliances are in chaos, and there are many battles. Moreover, you are wanted by the 4 alliances. If you head over, won't you just be jumping into a trap? Zhu Shun felt that young Master Lin was really bold. He really wanted to ask Lin Fan why he was so outstanding but didn't break his back. Lin Fan said calmly, "Who said that I'm jumping into a trap? You should say that I am adding oil to the fire and helping them to make the war even more intense." That was what he was really thinking. Zhu Xin didn't agree with young Master Lin's choice, but there was nothing he could do. From a start till now, he wanted to ask young Master Lin if he had listened to his suggestions at all. No, he definitely hadn't. If he had listened to it once, he would have been so grateful that he would have teared up. Lin Fan didn't say much to Zhu Shan. Although Zhu Shan was known as the top blade of the Imperial Dynasty, he was really timid and worried about everything. He felt like everything was dangerous. Even so, he couldn't hope that Lin Fan would support him. When Go Zi learned that young Master was heading out, he wanted to chase after young Master. He wanted to take care of young Master outside and not stay in Marshall Path Mountain. Lin Fan didn't agree to Go Zi following. There was no need. Although Go Zi was strong, the gap between him and true experts was huge. So, it was best if he just stayed in Marshall Path Mountain. A few days later, a figure shuttled through the dimension. After that, he stepped out of the dimension and floated in the air, staring into the distance. He could sense that there were ripples in the void far away. It was like the waves of the ocean, layer after layer, continuously surging over. After Lin Fan left Marshall Path Mountain, he headed straight for the 4 alliances. Based on the strength of the ripples, their cultivations were decent, and they should be around Tao Realm Stage 1. He didn't sense any ripples in the dimension, and only felt that the space around him was shattering. For those who were not very strong, they would definitely crawl and run away from this place in fear. After all, in their eyes, this was completely terrifying to the extreme. But to Lin Fan, this sort of battle was way too ordinary. Lin Fan headed into the distance to take a look at the situation. The reason why Celestial Alliance and Evil Alliance were able to fight was because of him, so he had to take care of them. How long? A rumbling sound came from between heaven and earth. Although the ripples from the battle weren't able to break the dimension, one could see that the dimension fluctuations were really strong. It was obvious that both sides were just a step away from Tao Realm Stage 2 dimension control. Lin Fan did not hide as he floated in the air and looked at the situation in the distance. It was just as he thought. A fierce fight broke out among a group of people. "This is a bloodbath," Lin Fan muttered to himself. The battle between the 2 sides was really intense. Apart from Tao Realm experts, there are also some Domain Realm experts. Every time he raised his hand, the power was extremely terrifying. The only strange thing was that the people fighting were all old men. There wasn't even a single young man. It was a pity. If the battles between the two alliances are this intense, then the situation is really complicated. Lin Fan pondered. The alliance headquarters didn't forcefully occupy it because they were afraid of the four alliances. If the alliance dared to attack, they would definitely fight back. It was even possible for them to band together. Just as Lin Fan was deep in his thoughts, a sharp beam of light pierced through the dimension and locked onto Lin Fan's figure, striking out with a simple attack. I have been noticed. Lin Fan turned around and gathered a god aura in his palm. He slapped towards the dimension, and a sky-ripping power swept the area like a dragon from the abyss. It roared and caused the dimension to cave in. Shortly after, there was a loud explosion. The entire area seemed to be shaking. "Kid, I have finally found you." Evil Spirit Old Ancestor hollered in rage. His voice was like thunder, and it caused the entire area to shake. Damn! Lin Fan found it weird and didn't expect that this fellow would actually be able to find him. Damn! During this period of time, he didn't do anything out of line. So how did this old fellow find him? The people from the two alliances who were fighting. They were all astonished by Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's aura. Even if they didn't see him in person, to them, it felt like their hearts were being controlled by a giant hand. Who is here? What kind of majestic aura is this? Evil Alliance's aura, the Evil Alliance Old Demon, is here. To the Celestial Alliance people, they were really sensitive to the Evil Alliance Old Demon's aura. Their hearts shook and they didn't dare to stay here. In the blink of an eye, the void dimension was violently torn apart. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor stepped forwards and the area turned gray. A terrifying demonic aura covered all of them. He is Evil Spirit Old Ancestor from 9 Evil Spirit Hall. Why is he here? How did this happen? With Evil Spirit Old Ancestor here, it is impossible for us to escape. Damn, we're the experts from Celestial Alliance. To the Celestial Alliance people, they were in total despair. They knew how terrifying Evil Spirit Old Ancestor was. With their cultivation, it was impossible for them to escape from Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's hands. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor just needed to sneeze, and he would be able to turn them into dust. There wouldn't even be a speck of dust left. At the same time, they noticed Lin Fan's presence. They were filled with questions. Who was this person, and when did he appear here? Instantly, they were shocked. Could it be that when they were fighting earlier, someone had been hiding in the surroundings, waiting for the moment when both sides were injured, and then coming out to finish them off? Their impression of Lin Fan instantly fell, and they started to think that he was a cunning person. If Lin Fan knew what they were thinking, he would definitely holler in rage. Scram! He was standing there openly, and all of them were blind. They actually said that he was cunning. What bunch of beasts! Lin Fan looked at Evil Spirit Old Ancestor helplessly. Old fellow, how did you find me? Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's eyes turned red, and he gritted his teeth. Kid, hand over the blood lotus. Originally, it was really tough for Evil Spirit Old Ancestor to find the blood lotus that he had lost. But when he passed the border, he smelled a familiar scent. That was the smell of the blood lotus. Thus, he didn't hesitate at all. Naturally, he tore open the dimension and struck. When he followed the scent, he saw the person he hated the most. It was the bastard who stole his blood lotus. It is gone. Lin Fan opened his arms to express that he was helpless. He wanted the blood lotus, so there was nothing he could do. Nonsense. Return the blood lotus to me. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor hollered. How would he believe Lin Fan's words? Lin Fan touched his stomach. Really? There is no need for me to lie to you. The blood lotus that you need is indeed on me, but I am already here. However, I must say that your blood lotus was indeed very good. It tasted sweet and sour, and I can still recall the aftertaste even now. Thinking about Go Z's craftsmanship, it was really not bad. He was able to make one blood lotus into 2 delicacies. If the blood lotus wasn't limited in size, he might have been able to make even more delicacies. What did you say? Evil Spirit Old Ancestor saw Lin Fan touch his stomach, and for some reason, he panicked. Sweat dripped down from his forehead. He He thought about something terrifying, but he shook his head to toss such a terrifying thought to the back of his head. Impossible. That was definitely impossible. This kid was definitely speaking nonsense. Lin Fan said, I have already said it clearly. I have already eaten the blood lotus that you want to get back. After he said that, he noticed that evil spirit old ancestor's eyes were a little lost and then filled with disbelief. He could only say firmly, Really, I won't lie to you. I really ate it. Why don't we just forget it? You can go find another blood lotus. Evil spirit old ancestor's pupils constricted and the white of his eyes turned red. His throat moved like there was a beast hiding within that was about to explode out. You are lying to me? Lin Fan shook his head. I really am not. There is no benefit to lying to you. You really ate it, so you should just leave. Stop shouting at me. I really don't want to kill you, but if you continue to shout at me, I might not be able to help but beat you to death. He wasn't the Lin Fan who liked to fight and kill in the past. He was willing to give anyone who dared to be rude to him a chance to live. From then until now, who knew how many chances he had given? Those people made him feel really happy. They all cherished such a rare chance. But now, an old fellow who didn't cherish it appeared. At that moment, the Celestial Alliance and Evil Alliance members felt that the situation was a little weird. When Evil Spirit Old Ancestor appeared, the Evil Alliance members were pumped up. But slowly, they realized that the situation wasn't right. Until now, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor didn't even look at them. Suddenly, the Celestial Alliance and Evil Alliance members felt that the air around became much thicker and it became really suppressive. It was as if they couldn't breathe. You jerk! Evil Spirit Old Ancestor hollered. An invisible aura spread out like a wave, shaking the area wave after wave. At that moment, the sky turned upside down and the wind and clouds surged. When a Tao Realm Stage 6 expert was angered, it wasn't something that normal people could imagine. Old Ancestor, we are from the Evil Alliance. Old Ancestor, please retract your aura. The people from the Celestial Alliance and Evil Alliance in the distance felt like a 10,000-ton mountain was pressing down on them. Their bones started to creak, and if this continued, they would be crushed to death by Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's aura. But what a waste. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor didn't care about their pleas at all. The rage in Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's heart couldn't be extinguished. His mind was filled with the thought that his blood lotus had actually been eaten. Damn kid, I'm going to fight you to the death. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor hollered in rage. He turned into a streak of light and slashed towards Lin Fan. It was as if he wasn't going to stop until he killed Lin Fan. Lin Fan frowned and was slightly unhappy. You're asking to die. I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. P.S. I just arrived at Malaysia Penang at night. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. to head to the airport and only arrived at night. Chapter 463. He didn't expect Evil Spirit Old Ancestor to be so arrogant. He didn't hold him in any regard at all. Did he forget that when they first met, a bunch of people chased him and they couldn't do anything to him? Kid, I'm going to turn your bones to dust and send you into the abyss for all eternity. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor hollered. His aura rose up and formed a power current. The space around him shook and shattered like it was the end of the world. Lin Fan looked at him and didn't care about him at all. Turn my bones to dust? You are really vicious. Let's see whether or not you have the ability to do so. The moment he said this, Lin Fan punched and a bright light shone from his fist. In an instant, a pillar of light roared out, shattering the space and covering Evil Spirit Old Ancestor. There was a loud explosion. The fist light was really eye-catching and it was unstoppable. The Celestial Alliance and Evil Alliance members were terrified. They felt like the sky had turned into a raging ocean, and they were like pitiful boats that swayed left and right like they could be flipped at any moment. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's eyes opened wide, and he felt like a sky-tearing power was heading towards him. He didn't dare to believe that this kid was actually so terrifying. Even if he knew that this kid was strong, he definitely didn't expect it to be like this. Pung! Evil spirit old ancestor took in a deep breath and raised his hand to block. A vast power surged out, but when it clashed with Lin Fan's fist light, it instantly exploded. The Celestial Alliance and Evil Alliance members were astonished. Just the ripples from the battle felt like their bodies were about to be ripped apart. The pain was like the tip of a blade slicing down on their bodies. Leave. Such a battle isn't something we can handle. Even the ripples can rip us apart. Who is this person? How is he on the same level as Evil Spirit Old Ancestor? Wait, I remember who he is. He seems to be a wanted person. To the Celestial Alliance and Evil Alliance members, their battle was just a normal one. Originally, the battle between them was just a normal battle. Although they wanted to determine a victor, it was definitely not a battle to the death. However, the current situation was not right. It wasn't a battle to the death. Even if they wanted to live, it depended on whether or not Lin Fan gave them a chance. Old man, don't go overboard. Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you continue to be so arrogant, you will die. Lin Fan said. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor didn't expect Lin Fan to be so terrifying. There was a cracking sound. A soft sound spread forth. This was the sound of Evil Spirit Old Ancestor straightening the bones in his arm. Careless, really careless. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor definitely wouldn't admit that he was weaker than Lin Fan. He just felt that he had underestimated Lin Fan and suffered a small loss. Brat, this old man can't wait to cut you into pieces. When he thought about how his blood lotus was eaten by Lin Fan, a ball of rage burned in his heart. Then, his expression turned ferocious and his eyes filled with rage. You will die today. When he said these words, his unbearable killing intent filled the entire world. Even the people from the immortal and evil alliances, who had already fled far away, felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Their entire bodies felt cold from head to toe, and their fiery hearts seemed to have frozen, losing all of their previous vitality. Really, since you're so confident, I'll give you a chance. He then curled his finger towards Evil Spirit Old Ancestor in a humiliating manner. He wanted to see whether or not Evil Spirit Old Ancestor could kill him and not just talk nonsense. Damn, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor was furious. He had never met such an arrogant person. Instantly, the terrifying power in his body started to boil. The sky was affected and it turned dark. In the dark sky, a black demon dragon rolled about. Brat, receive this old man's wrath. There was a loud explosion. The heavens and earth rumbled incessantly, and the entire firmament was completely tumbling. A horrifying aura descended from the heavens and enveloped Lin Fan instantly. Interesting, Lin Fan hollered. Tao patterns appeared in his body and gathered on his fist. At that moment, a 10,000-foot light covered the sky. He punched forwards and opened up a brand new path in the sky. When the fist light and the demon dragon clashed, time seemed to have stopped. In the blink of an eye, a terrifying shockwave spread out. The people from the celestial and evil alliances thought that they were safe, but very quickly they realized that they were thinking too much. They could see the terrifying shockwave from afar. They wanted to flee, but it was as if their legs were stuck in the air and it was tough for them to even move. Screams spread out. When the shockwave ravaged their bodies, they came back to their senses. How terrifying was that? Even Tao Realm Stage 1 found it hard to take, much less those who were only at Domain Realm or not. Old Ancestor, please spare me. Old Ancestor, save me. The Evil Alliance people were about to go mad. Why did this happen? They were all on the same side, so how could he treat them like that? But Evil Spirit Old Ancestor didn't care about them at all. He locked his eyes on Lin Fan and didn't care about whether or not people around would die. The Evil Alliance people cursed. Damn Evil Spirit, they were on the same side, so why did he have to do that? To the Celestial Alliance people, they were about to collapse. The gap between their strengths was just too huge, and they had no way to fight back at all. Old man, your strength is indeed not bad, but this alone is not enough. Lin Fan said calmly. In the past, when he faced Tao Realm Stage 6 experts, he could only flee. But look at how calm he was now. Evil spirit old ancestor hollered. Kid, I hate your face. He had never seen such a pretentious young man before. Every single word that came out of his mouth felt like he was putting on an act. This was especially true now that he hadn't been able to suppress this brat at the first possible moment. Instead, this brat had taken advantage of the opportunity to put on a show. My face makes you uncomfortable. Okay, I understand. A smile appeared on Lin Fan's face. But to others, it seemed like it was filled with evil intentions, and it even made one panic. Old fellow, let me tell you, the taste of your blood lotus is indeed not bad. I got my dog to bring it to the kitchen, and not only did he make a dry stir-fried blood lotus for me, he even added some ingredients to make a soup. The taste is delicious, and the aftertaste is endless, especially when it contains someone's hardened blood, but I'm not interested in this thing, so I gave the blood to my pet to eat. He didn't mind it, and ate it very happily. Lin Fan slowly explained the use of the blood lotus. Shut up. Evil spirit old ancestor hollered in rage. His expression changed, and it looked like he was about to swallow Lin Fan up. Hayes, it is impossible for me to shut up. What happened has happened. You have to learn to face it. When Lin Fan saw how angry evil spirit old ancestor was, he felt really good. Then, evil spirit old ancestor hollered and charged towards Lin Fan. Lin Fan knew what he was here for. He wasn't here to fight evil spirit old ancestor. But since he was so arrogant, if he didn't teach him a lesson, he wouldn't know how big the gap between them was. He hollered. The power in his body boiled. Lin Fan stepped forwards and the space caved in. He disappeared from the spot, and when he appeared once more, he was right in front of evil spirit old ancestor. Evil spirit old ancestor was shocked. He didn't expect the kid to be so quick. Shortly after, he sensed a terrifying aura exploding from the kid's body. Old man, lie down. Lin Fan hollered in rage and punched forwards. A bright light exploded from his fist and pressed down on evil spirit old ancestor's body. You jerk! Evil spirit old ancestor didn't back down at all and took it head on. But when he sensed the aura from Lin Fan's fist, his expression changed. So strong. How long? Evil spirit old ancestor couldn't handle the power. Like a cannonball, his body was smashed deep into the ground. Ooh! Lin Fan looked at his fist, which was smoking. He blew at it and felt really good. Facing a Tao Realm Stage 6 expert like evil spirit old ancestor, naturally, he wasn't able to suppress him. At that moment, thick dust rose up from the deep hole, and one couldn't see the exact situation below. With a kacha, movement spread out from the depths of the ground. Evil spirit old ancestor pushed aside the stone on his body and looked at Lin Fan in shock. Your physical body cultivation has actually reached such a realm. Evil spirit old ancestor knew that Lin Fan was only at Tao Realm Stage 3. But it was weird. He was only at Stage 3, but the power that exploded out wasn't something that someone at Stage 3 could deal with. Even with his Tao Realm Stage 6 cultivation, he was actually unable to take him down. Dual cultivation has reached Stage 3, but I haven't reached my goal. Lin Fan was filled with regret. Evil spirit old ancestor couldn't accept such words. His lips twitched. He really wanted to beat this kid to death. Why did such an arrogant person have to appear here? There was nothing he could do about it. But Lin Fan's words made evil spirit old ancestor wary. He reached Tao Realm Stage 3 at such a young age and was a dual cultivator. If he continued to develop like this, the outcome would be catastrophic. He had to kill him here. He couldn't allow this to continue. Otherwise, there would be endless problems in the future. The Alliance headquarters leaked news of this kid to the 4 alliances so that they could kill this kid. They thought that the Alliance wanted to use them to kill him. Now, it seemed like even if the Alliance didn't leak this matter, as long as the 4 alliances found out that this kid was weird, they would stop at nothing to kill him. From the looks of it, you must be thinking about something. Actually, there's no need to think too much about it. Let's fight then. Let's continue. I'll let you see just how strong I am. With your current strength, it's a complete dream for you to kill me. As a rich family young master, naturally, he didn't like to fight and left everything to others. But now, his desire to fight was high. He just wanted to beat someone up to calm himself down. Chapter 464. At that moment, Lin Fan gripped his fists tightly as his inner and outer dual cultivation state burst forth completely. A ripple that could affect the entire heavens swept out. ZZ, the strong power rubbed against the space and created many thin currents. With Lin Fan as the center, the space around him seemed to become extremely hot. This power, evil spirit old ancestor's expression was solemn, and he could sense how terrifying this power was. He didn't dare to be careless. He didn't understand how this kid cultivated. For him to reach such a realm at such a young age, that was just too terrifying. Suddenly, Lin Fan disappeared from the spot. Evil spirit old ancestor looked around warily. Instantly, he sensed the space around him shake. He didn't say anything more and just raised his hand to slap the air. The power of this palm was terrifying. Lin Fan did walk out from the dimension. He punched forwards and clashed with evil spirit old ancestor's palm, causing huge ripples. Nowadays, most people cultivated their cultivation realms. Very few people cultivated their physical bodies. The explosion of Lin Fan's dual cultivation system was the most terrifying, especially since his Dao patterns had reached a terrifying 90. How could someone at Dao Realm Stage 3 have that? Pung. Evil spirit old ancestor retreated. In terms of strength, he wasn't Lin Fan's match at all when he wanted to say something. But he realized that Lin Fan didn't stop. Instead, he appeared viciously on the other side. Old man, prepare for my storm-like attacks. Lin Fan hollered and clenched his fists. An ancient beast image appeared behind him, and it roared in rage. Its aura was really shocking as it smashed its fists onto evil spirit old ancestor's body. Pung! There was a loud explosion. A terrifying aura exploded, and the entire area felt like it was being ripped in half by the shockwave. Lin Fan looked below and thought to himself that evil spirit old ancestor should be furious. As a Dao Realm Stage 6 expert, it was such an embarrassing thing for him to be unable to defeat a Dao Realm Stage 3 expert. However, these were all normal operations. After all, he was facing someone as strong as him. Lin Fan then charged down and was prepared to beat up evil spirit old ancestor. Suddenly, Lin Fan frowned and sensed a dark and heavy aura explode. Something was about to appear from the thick dust on the ground. In an instant, a gigantic black hand broke through the dust and grabbed Lin Fan in its palm. The palm was way too huge, and Lin Fan was like a tiny ant. Kid, you've gone too far. An angry roar could be heard. Evil spirit old ancestor was infuriated by Lin Fan. How could a Dao Realm Stage 6 expert like him take such a beating? Immediately after, a towering demon god appeared between heaven and earth. This was evil spirit old ancestor's phenomenon of heaven and earth. His body swelled to the extreme, and he had the ability to destroy heaven and earth. Die for this old man. Evil spirit old ancestor hollered. He waved his arms and smashed Lin Fan to the ground. He clenched his fingers and punched forwards. Kacha! The earth trembled, and countless cracks appeared on the ground, which then turned into deep ravines. Beams of light shot up into the sky from the ravines, capable of tearing everything apart. In the distance, the people from the immortal and evil alliances screamed as they died. Even in death, they had never imagined that they would die in the hands of their own people. But to evil spirit old ancestor, he didn't care about them at all. Maybe to him, their names were as insignificant as ants. Kid, get up. Where's your arrogant attitude? Evil spirit old ancestor's fists smashed into the ground, forming many deep holes. Normal Dao Realm Stage 3 experts, no. Not to mention Dao Realm Stage 3, even Dao Realm Stage 5 experts would be turned into meat patties under such terrifying power. At this moment, evil spirit old ancestor was extremely furious. After losing the Blood Lotus, he felt like his life had become really lost, and he didn't know what to do. Numerous years of hard work have been wasted just like that. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be able to take it. Come on, let me see your ability. Get up. Why is there no movement at all? Evil spirit old ancestor hollered. His bloodshot eyes shone with a maniacal glow. Pata! Eh? Evil spirit old ancestor was shocked. The fist that was about to land didn't strike the ground like before, but it was blocked by something. Boy, that's enough, old fellow. In the deep hole, Lin Fan, who was covered in dust, used one hand to block evil spirit old ancestor's fist. He raised his head, and even if he couldn't see his expression, he knew that this old fellow was definitely excited. He felt like he was about to smash him into meat patties. You? How is that possible? Evil spirit old ancestor was astonished. He was already in such a state, but Lin Fan was actually still alive. Moreover, from his tone, it seemed like he was perfectly fine. Lin Fan smiled. Are you surprised? Actually, don't feel surprised. Truthfully, you're not bad. But to me, you are still a little lacking. Instantly, Lin Fan grabbed evil spirit old ancestor's fingers. With his back facing his body, he stepped forwards and with a terrifying shoulder throw. This was a difference in size, and the gap was just too huge. Evil spirit old ancestor was stunned. He didn't expect things to turn out like this. He thought that he would be able to crush Lin Fan to death. But who knew that such a thing would actually happen? Impossible! Evil spirit old ancestor hollered. Suddenly, his pupils constricted. Lin Fan appeared in the sky and landed. His legs stepped onto evil spirit old ancestor's stomach. Dong! It was like the sound of water dripping onto the surface of a lake. Shortly after, evil spirit old ancestor's stomach instantly shriveled up like a terrifying power was pressing down on him. Poochie! Evil spirit old ancestor's eyes opened wide, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. There was a loud explosion. His giant body fell to the ground and smashed out a giant hole. Kacha! The celestial embodiment of heaven and earth shattered like a mirror and floated into the air piece by piece. Damn! Evil spirit old ancestor was filled with disbelief, and he was even in a frenzy. To him, the situation shouldn't have been like this. But now, everything that had happened, as well as the pain in his body, told him that everything was real. I'm going to fight you to the death. Evil spirit old ancestor hollered and opened his fingers to grab Lin Fan. Even the dimension was ripped apart by those 5 fingers. If normal people were grabbed, their heads would have been separated from their bodies, and they would have died tragically here. If you want to fight me to the death, that will depend on your ability. Lin Fan was really calm. He waved his arm, and sword intent covered the sky. He pressed down, and 10,000 swords landed. They all struck evil spirit old ancestor's body. Selah! Selah! The sword intent sliced his body, and at the same time, it gave him an unstoppable pressure. How long? How long? A power that shook heaven and earth affected the entire space. Thick dust rose up and covered evil spirit old ancestor's celestial embodiment of heaven and earth. Lin Fan stood with his arms behind his back and waited quietly. Evil spirit old ancestor's cultivation was decent, but compared to him, there was still a gap. Very quickly, the dust dissipated. The celestial embodiment of heaven and earth also disappeared. Evil spirit old ancestor floated out of the deep hole covered in blood. His furious eyes locked on a Lin Fan. Maybe this was the revenge of killing his father. At the same time, evil spirit old ancestor was missing an arm, which was sliced off by Lin Fan's sword intent. What a waste. Why is an arm missing? Lin Fan smiled. It was just a normal move, and there was nothing special about it. Evil spirit old ancestor panted and gritted his teeth. He gave out a low voice. The severed arm slowly grew back, and it was as good as new. But evil spirit old ancestor's face was slightly white. This was the special ability of Tao Realm Stage 6, Undying Body. Even if one's arm was cut off, it could grow back. Lin Fan envied these Tao Realm special abilities. It was a waste that he was only at Tao Realm Stage 3. Evil spirit, I have already told you that you are asking to die. Even if you regret it now, it is too late because you're going to end up in a tragic state. The moment he said this, Lin Fan disappeared from the spot and appeared in front of Evil Spirit Old Ancestor. Punk. The moment he appeared, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor punched Lin Fan's chest. He laughed out loud. Kid, although you are quick, I can still see Pata. What are you looking at? Lin Fan grabbed Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's wrist and pulled him forwards. He then punched his face. Kacha! Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's face twisted and he opened his mouth. His teeth seemed to have suffered a huge blow and fresh blood spurted out. Let go. He wanted to pull his arm out from Lin Fan's hand, but it didn't budge at all. Lin Fan's head reared back and he charged forwards, smashing into Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's head. Pung! Fresh blood spurted. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's head caved in and turned into a bloody mess. You jerk, Pung! Lin Fan punched Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's head once more. He was a dual cultivator, and his body was terrifyingly tough. That blow was like a nuclear bomb exploding. Was that something normal people could take? Not to mention normal people, even if one asked Evil Spirit Old Ancestor how he felt. If one's head wasn't dizzy, one would be lying. Looking at Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's head, it was a bloody mess. Pung! 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 At this time, Lin Fan was like a robot, constantly colliding. Even he himself felt a little dizzy. He smashed into things a little too many times. Even if one's head was tough, one shouldn't play like this. He looked at Evil Spirit Old Ancestor. Aya! His body was a bloody mess, and fresh blood dripped onto his face. One couldn't see his face clearly. Old man, are you still okay? Lin Fan asked. When Evil Spirit Old Ancestor heard Lin Fan's words, he was so furious that he nearly self-destructed on the spot. But he decided against it. He didn't want to die, and he didn't want to die for no reason. Kid, unless you kill me, you can forget about living in peace. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor raged. Is that so? Lin Fan asked. He didn't care much about Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's words. He felt that it was not bad. Just think about how many rage points Evil Spirit Old Ancestor would give him in his life. At that moment, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor raged. Release me. Lin Fan didn't bother. Wong. His aura shook. The power in Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's body became explosive. Release me, or we will die together. Lin Fan didn't bother about him and just looked at him calmly. After a long while, the explosive aura in Evil Spirit Old Ancestor's body slowly calmed down. It was rare for someone to self-destruct for such a long time. Lin Fan asked, You aren't going to self-destruct? Evil Spirit Old Ancestor. Damn, was he someone who didn't care about his face? Because of his pride, he could only force Evil Spirit Old Ancestor to break his arm once more. His methods were really vicious, and normal people wouldn't be able to do that. He used his chance. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor retreated far away. He relied on the Tao Realm Stage 6 Undying Body to grow out his arm once more. At the same time, the injuries on his body slowly disappeared. As expected, this skill was a little problematic. Kid, if not for my blood lotus being snatched by you, do you think that you would still be standing here? Evil Spirit Old Ancestor hollered. Lin Fan blinked. So you were blaming me? Evil Spirit Old Ancestor took in a deep breath and had nothing to say. He pointed at Lin Fan and said viciously, Just you wait. The moment he said this, Evil Spirit Old Ancestor ran right away. Lin Fan didn't stop him. He just gave a caring smile. P.S. I recommend my friend's book Traceless Battle. If you're interested, you can take a look and support him. Chapter 465. He didn't chase? Evil Spirit Old Ancestor ran really quickly, and in the blink of an eye, he was far away. Only when he was sure that the kid didn't follow did he heave a sigh of relief. He didn't think that he couldn't beat the kid. He just didn't want to tire himself out. Damn kid, do you really think that I can't kill you? If I really go all out, I will teach you a lesson. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor was furious, and had never expected that he would face such a situation. His position in Evil Alliance was that of an ancestor, and no one dared to behave arrogantly in front of him. But the situation was a little complicated. He had personally tested the kid's strength, and it was indeed really terrifying. For someone at Tao Realm Stage 3 to have such strength was something that had never appeared in the world. He couldn't be left alive. If it didn't take him a heart, one day, a really terrifying thing would happen. It would be even more terrifying than Lin Wani's. Lin Wani's identity was that of a normal commoner. He didn't have any status, nor did he have any backing. He was able to grow to the point where even the top sects and the older generation, who had lived for hundreds of years, couldn't compete with him. Thus, to them, how Lin Wani became strong was a mystery. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor felt that he was the one who understood Lin Fan's strength the most. Other people didn't understand him, so he felt a little less pressure. He wanted to spread this news back. Even if the battle between Evil Alliance and Celestial Alliance was so intense, they couldn't ignore Lin Fan's existence. In a void in the distance, Lin Fan was really cunning and sneakily followed behind. He didn't get too close, as with Evil Spirit Old Ancestor strength, he wouldn't be able to sense whether or not there was someone behind him. That little old man really ran away. He thought that the old man would think of a way to turn around and kill him. Who knew that he didn't have any guts at all and just ran? How embarrassing. But thinking about it, it was understandable. People from a demon path would definitely run if they said they would. How could they turn around and ask for trouble? Lin Fan followed Evil Spirit Old Ancestor to see whether or not he could do anything. But looking at the situation, he was going to be disappointed. He had a use for keeping Evil Spirit Old Ancestor alive. Apart from providing rage points, he could also use Evil Spirit Old Ancestor to promote himself. He needed enemies now, and if he killed Evil Spirit Old Ancestor, he would be able to head to those top sects and shout for them to do what he did. Thinking about it, he felt that it was a little silly and pointless. He was at the border between the Celestial Alliance and Evil Alliance. Battles between Tao Realm experts happened frequently, but it was difficult for more people to die in battles between Tao Realm experts. Usually, those who died were those below the domain realm. Lin Fan didn't think so much and continued to head into the distance. He wanted to understand the exact situation and see what the relationship between the four alliances was like. Celestial Alliance, Guasian Island. Since Su Yuanming went to White Lotus St. Purity Mountain to talk to Gyuan, he had been thinking about what to do. He was taking a risk and asking a tiger for its skin. How could he trust the alliance? But after thinking about it, he realized that there was no other way. He could only protect himself. There was no need to think too much about other things. So, during the Celestial Alliance meeting, Su Yuanming remained silent. Occasionally, he would say something to show that he still existed. They could discuss strategies, and he would just watch. Sect Leader, Evil Alliance's attacks are a little intense. Are we really not going to attack? Guasian Island Elder asked. He could faintly feel that the Sect Master was different from before after his return. In the past, the Sect Master was the one who attacked. Now that he was so calm, it made him feel a little uncomfortable. Su Yuanming said, "There is no rush. Let's wait. The situation is really complicated. Let's just wait and see." The elder thought about it. Sect Leader, did something happen? No, don't think too much. This is a crucial moment, and one move will affect everything. Guasian Island not only has to face Evil Alliance, but also Monster Alliance. We can't be careless. Su Yuanming didn't want to tell others about this. Moreover, he wasn't sure what problems it would bring if he told others. The elders of Guasian Island were more inflexible. If they knew that he and Gyuan were working with the Alliance and con the four alliances, they wouldn't be able to take it. They might even leak it out. When that happened, the situation would be really bad. The elder looked at Su Yuanming as though he had discovered something. Sect Master, we are all elders of the sect. No matter what, we are all thinking for the sect. If Sect Master has something on his mind, there's no harm in telling us. Su Yuanming smiled. It is okay. To be able to become an elder, which one of them wasn't smart. Their hearts were like a mirror, and they could see further than anyone else. Naturally, he could see that the sect leader's attitude had changed. Something must have happened, otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. Did sect leader head over to Buddha Alliance, and something happened? The elder thought about it, and felt that it was possible. Maybe he would be able to find out from White Lotus Saint Purity Mountain's attitude. Imperial Dynasty. Your Majesty, recently there have been many cases of people disappearing from the palace. I think that we should strengthen the defenses in case they harm your Majesty. Zhu Xiang said. Recently, the Imperial Dynasty had lost people. They sent people to search, but it was as if they had disappeared from the world. There were no clues at all. King Wutong was calm. Let's do as you think. He obtained the ability to strengthen himself from evil god. He needed to forcefully obtain strength from others. In the Imperial Dynasty, the best way was to attack the people around him. During this period of time, he had already swallowed close to 20 Imperial Dynasty guards. But this was far from enough. Unfortunately, there were too many of them, and they would eventually attract attention. Zhu Xiang, you are the most trustworthy person by my side. It has been tough on you during this period of time. King Wudong said. He could see that Zhu Xiang was ambitious, but he was still loyal to him. Now that he was in need of manpower, he wanted to develop him. It is my honor to serve your Majesty. Zhu Xiang knelt down. King Wudong said, now that the alliance is suppressing us, the Imperial Dynasty needs talents. Go and recruit experts. No matter what conditions they raise, you can agree to them as long as they are really skilled. To him, this was probably the best method. Although people would occasionally be lost, it was much better than being outside. Yes, I will follow your orders. Zhu Xiang replied. He knew how much pressure His Majesty was under. The alliance had placed their ambition on the table to tell the Imperial Dynasty that their target was the sects, and in the end, the Imperial Dynasty. No one would be able to escape. Very quickly, Zhu Xiang left the hall. King Wudong's face turned dark and cold. He raised his hand, and his fingers turned into many tentacles. This was the source of him becoming stronger. When he got this ability from the evil gods, he couldn't accept it at the start. But now, he felt that it was a great ability. Alliance, sects, all of you wait. One day, all of you will pay a heavy price. He hated the alliance and also hated the sections. This was why his only goal of becoming stronger was to take revenge and return the Imperial Dynasty to its former glory. He wanted to leave his nephew an Imperial Dynasty like before, even one that was even stronger than before. This was his dream and goal. Outside the Imperial Dynasty, Zhu Xiang returned to the general manor. He climbed to the peak of power in a short period of time, and his speed was really quick. One could say that one's tongue was tied in disbelief. Normally, this wouldn't have happened. But now that they were in a chaotic world, everything was possible. General, what do you think happened in the Imperial Dynasty? The Deputy General asked curiously. Zhu Xiang said calmly, don't think about things you can't understand. It won't be good for you if you know. Yes, I understand. The Deputy General replied. Although Zhu Xiang wasn't strong, he was smart and had a plan. He was able to complete everything with minimal losses, which was why many soldiers supported him. Zhu Xiang looked towards the direction of the Imperial Dynasty and had a thought. He didn't know what the exact reason was, but it definitely had something to do with His Majesty. When he told His Majesty about this matter, he realized that His Majesty was really calm, like he didn't care much about it. And because of this, he suspected His Majesty. But all of that wasn't important. His Majesty's matters were their matters. No matter what His Majesty did, they just had to follow. A few days later, Lin Fan had been at the battlefield between the two alliances for a period of time. He hadn't seen many intense battles and was a little disappointed. Apart from coming out to scout the market, he wanted to earn a wave of rage points. But with the current situation, did he have to head to their sects and provoke them right in front of their faces? If that was the case, then it would make him feel helpless. He thought about it. Damn, since that is the case, then I will take the initiative. Days without rage points aren't happy at all. He was prepared to walk on the edge of death. He had no choice. He couldn't meet anyone, so he had to find one himself. A few days later, Evil Alliance territory. After Lin Fan left the border, he appeared in Evil Alliance territory. He had offended some sects over at Celestial Alliance. As for Evil Alliance, he didn't offend many. The only one he had an impression of was Shidao sect. Night fell. Lin Fan stayed in the forest and was a little hungry. The bug controlling technique's special Dao essence spread out and attracted a wild boar over. A wild boar buffed by Dao essence was indeed a little overbearing. Its face was vicious, and its two fangs were really terrifying. But he didn't fear anything. He just ate whatever he wanted, as it was the same anyway. ZZ. He barbecued the wild boar on the fire, and a fragrance slowly spread out. When one was outside, if one didn't make some good food, one wouldn't be able to face one's stomach. Just like that, a wild boar that was as good as new was reduced to a skeleton under Lin Fan's huge appetite. Suddenly, Lin Fan turned his head and looked into the distance. A sound spread out from there. Someone was coming over. Chapter 466. Now that he was in Evil Alliance's territory, the people that appeared weren't good people. Very quickly, a bunch of people appeared in the distance. They are quite strong. Lin Fan looked on. An extremely luxurious carriage headed over, and there was a three-headed eagle-like beast pulling it. He had never seen a beast before, and the only one he had seen was Nine Demon. To others, it was just a bug. In the distance, "Young master, there is someone in front." A bunch of people followed the carriage, and one of them said softly to the carriage, "It is okay." The person in the carriage didn't show his face. His voice was that of a man, lazy but majestic. Very quickly, Lin Fan raised his head and muttered to himself. This person really knew how to enjoy life. Look at his carriage, and then look at his situation. Why was the gap so huge? The carriage stopped around Lin Fan. "Let's rest here." A voice spread out from within. The servants beside him got busy and didn't care about Lin Fan at all. Everyone split up, and in just a short while, everything was prepared. A servant laid on the carriage. Shortly after, an arm stretched out from within. It opened the curtains and walked out. It stepped on the person's back and got off the carriage. Lin Fan took a look and was stunned. Was the person who came out a guy or a girl? Wait, from the way he spoke, it should be a guy. That was right. Damn, why did a guy look like that? The young master stepped on the carpet and said softly, "The air here is too turbid. The dirty floor will only stain my feet. Don't worry, young master, we have cleaned this place." The servant said hurriedly. He knew that young master was a pretty boy who loved cleanliness and was the top handsome man in Evil Alliance. No, he was the most beautiful person in the four alliances. Any guy who saw young master's face would feel ashamed. One could sense the gap between them, and that was something that couldn't be crossed. The servants around looked at Lin Fan and realized that he was stunned. They were delighted. Another pitiful person was subdued by their young master's looks. Thinking about the geniuses of Evil Alliance, who knew how many of them wanted to be together with young master, but young master thought that they were tacky and rejected them. Even if there were girls who knelt outside and begged just to meet him and speak to him, young master ignored them and didn't care about them at all. Right now, they knew that the reason why the young master didn't chase them away was because the young master's bad taste had come out. He probably wanted to let these ordinary men know the difference between them. Lin Fan remembered this person in his heart. The way they made their entrance was rather unique, and the formation they carried was also extraordinary. Clearly, they were from a top sect. Right now, his goal was to provoke the top sections. Now that someone had come knocking on his door, he would not be doing himself justice if he did not cherish this opportunity. But now, if the enemy doesn't move, I won't move either. It's best to first figure out the enemy's background. At this moment, young master sat there and looked at Lin Fan. To be able to meet me in the wilderness is a huge blessing for you. In the future, when you go out and tell others about this, it will become a topic of conversation for you. A little arrogant. Although Lin Fan didn't act cool, he was indeed arrogant. He didn't expect that he would actually meet such an opponent. He just met him in the wilderness, and he actually said that it was a huge blessing for him. That was a little arrogant. Is that so? Are you so amazing? Lin Fan smiled and asked. Preposterous. How can you speak to my young master like that? "Do you know who my young master is? Have you heard of heaven-covering demon sect?" The servant standing beside the young master scolded him for being preposterous. When normal people met their young master, which one of them wouldn't lower their heads and worship him? But this kid actually dared to question him. He probably didn't even know who he was talking to. The young master didn't stop them. Instead, he calmly smiled. He liked to casually let the servants beside him introduce themselves. Then, he would see the calm expressions on their faces gradually turn into panic. That feeling, to him, was simply too satisfying. But the scenes in front of him, it disappointed the young master a little. He was thinking about it. When the servant mentioned heaven-covering demon sect, Lin Fan's expression should have been the same as what he expected. But why didn't the situation change at all? The young master squinted and waved his hands to tell the servant not to say anything more. "You don't know about heaven-covering demon sect?" the young master asked. He wanted to ask whether or not Lin Fan knew about heaven-covering demon sect. Logically speaking, everyone should have known about it. After all, it was a top sect in Evil Alliance. But looking at his expression, it was like he didn't know about it. As for not holding heaven-covering demon sect in any regard, that was impossible. Lin Fan smiled. In his heart, it was really simple. What did he know? Heaven-covering demon sect? In the entire Evil Alliance, he only knew about Xiedao sect. When a young master saw that Lin Fan only smiled and didn't say anything, he was really unhappy. He felt like this person totally disregarded his charm, and that made him really unhappy. But he really didn't believe that Lin Fan wasn't convinced by his charm. Next, the young master naturally needed to eat, and the food he prepared was really rich. Even if Lin Fan didn't know what the food was, just from the looks of it, he knew that it wasn't normal. Lin Fan had eaten an entire wild boar before, but when he smelled the fragrance, he felt hungry once more. Naturally, his appetite was there too. The young master sensed Lin Fan's gaze, and his lips curled up into a weird smile. At that moment, the young master placed the food into his mouth elegantly and swallowed it. He then said, "Do you know what this food is? I don't think you have seen such food before, right?" Damn, Lin Fan couldn't take it anymore. Were people so overbearing when they acted cool now? Moreover, those words were just a prelude. As long as he continued, it would be time for him to act cool. He just thought that this might be his last chance to act cool. Forget it. He would just give him a chance. "I have never seen it before. What kind of god food is this?" Lin Fan asked. The young master smiled. "These aren't things that normal people can eat. To others, each of them is really precious. There was once a person who said that he had tasted all the delicacies in the world and knelt in front of me, hoping to have a bite. I pitied him, so I let him have a bite. To him, this was his only chance to eat such precious food. But to me, it is just a normal ingredient. Take a look. Wasn't this acting cool a little too much?" He actually said that someone knelt down for a bite. One had to say that this method was really amazing and had a high research value. But what he said next made Lin Fan really unhappy. Of course, with your identity and status, you probably won't be able to taste such food in your life. The young master smiled evilly. Right, it was an evil smile. Such a disgusting smile was his signature. Who knew how many Evil Alliance girls were captivated by his smile? Is that so? So, you're saying that your heaven-covering demon sect is really rich? Lin Fan got up and was prepared to walk towards the young master. What happened next wasn't harmonious at all. The young master said, "Of course, heaven-covering demon sect is the second richest out of the top 10 sects in Evil Alliance. No other sect dares to say that they are first." He was just so confident and overbearing. At the same time, he was filled with a sense of superiority. He looked at Lin Fan and thought about those pitiful people who fought for their lives. As the young master of top sect, his life was something that they couldn't achieve even if they worked hard for their entire lives. Just at that moment, the servant standing beside the young master realized that Lin Fan was too close to the young master and hollered in rage, "Stop! Stay away from my young master." The moment he said this, Lin Fan chuckled out as his god might burst forth and enveloped the bodies of those slaves. In that instant, it was as if the slaves' hearts had stopped beating. Cold sweat appeared on their foreheads, and their hearts were filled with panic like they had seen a ghost. This was an expert. That aura made it hard for them to breathe. Suddenly, in the darkness, a power spread out like a wave. An expert was hiding around. Scram. An old man aggressively attacked from the darkness. He opened his fingers and pulled fiercely. The dimension directly collapsed. He didn't say a single word and attacked ruthlessly the moment they met. This was enough to show how important the young master was to them. They wanted to kill the threat in the cradle as soon as possible. Lin Fan looked at the old man, raised his hand, and pressed forwards. Pung! The old man's expression changed, and he felt an unstoppable power pressing down on him. He flew backward and spat out fresh blood in midair. He smashed many giant trees. Not bad, just a little weak. Lin Fan was really calm, and he didn't care about him at all. To him, those who weren't at Dao Realm Stage 6 shouldn't talk to him. When the young master saw those scenes, his expression changed from calm to astonishment. In just a few seconds, there was a huge change. Pata! Lin Fan walked in front of the young master and placed the precious ingredients into his mouth. Not bad. The taste is really fresh, and it also contains a really strong power. It seems like what you said is true. This thing isn't something that normal people can enjoy. But you're wrong about something. If I want to eat it, I will eat it. There is nothing impossible about it. Lin Fan understood the luxurious life of the top sections. Just these ingredients alone were enough to be called spiritual herbs. It was extremely difficult for normal people to even think about it. But this extremely beautiful kid treated it like 3 meals a day. His life was just too carefree. When he was in U City, he didn't have such a good life. What are all of you looking at? The young master hollered in rage and scolded the servants who didn't move at all. He brought them out to protect him. So why weren't they moving now? Those servants were panicking. Young master, we can't move. To them, it felt like a giant stone was pressing down on them, and they couldn't move at all. Chapter 467. Damn, the young master really wanted to smash the heads of these slaves. They actually couldn't be persuaded. Damn, why didn't they seem so cowardly usually? Now that he was facing a young man, all of them did such a thing. Good, very good. Wait and see. Once this matter is over, I will teach all of you a lesson. You bunch of dogs. Lin Fan said, don't think about relying on them. You're like fish on the chopping board. No matter what you do, the outcome will be the same. Do you understand? Young Master's expression became really ugly. He was the young master of heaven-covering demon sect and had a high status. Many people flattered him and sucked up to him. But now, a kid of unknown origin had jumped on his head. How could he tolerate that? To young master, this was a huge insult. Do you know what you were doing? Young master acted like he was calm, and his expression was really dark and sunken. He hoped that Lin Fan could understand the huge gap between their identities. But if he attacked him, he would face terrifying revenge. Lin Fan raised his hand to cover his mouth and said, Sue, don't speak. I understand what you want to say. Threats are useless. If they were, do you think you would still be like this? At that moment, a voice spread out from behind. The old man climbed up from the ground and wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked at Lin Fan in shock. He didn't expect that there would be such a terrifying young man. Old Tong, take him down. I'm going to teach him a lesson. Young Master raged. Old Tong looked at Lin Fan warily and reminded, Young Master, don't anger him. He was able to see much further than the young master. He could tell with a single glance how strong the other party was. Even he might not be a match for him. Young master had such a comfortable life, and it was obvious that he didn't care about anyone else. But this kid was so terrifyingly strong. Was young master really blind, or was he faking it? As long as one had a brain, they wouldn't offend him at such a time. When young master heard Old Tong's words, he felt like he was being insulted. Don't anger him? Didn't it mean that he was someone who could be angered easily and he couldn't fight back? Old Tong, do you know what you were saying? Who am I? You actually told me not to provoke the other party? Are you belittling my identity and status to the point that I'm worthless? The young master roared. Even at such a time, he didn't think that he was at a disadvantage. In simple words, the meaning was obvious. I am the young master of heaven covering demon sect. So, do you dare to hit me? Ha! As soon as the young lord finished speaking, a crisp voice sounded. Lin Fan couldn't take it anymore and slapped him. Stop acting cool. The young master felt pain on his face. Half of his face seemed to have shriveled up from the slap. Then, he fell to the ground with a thud. He seemed to be in a daze. Just as the young master was about to roar in anger, he suddenly felt his face getting wet. He raised his hand and wiped his face. Lowering his head, he saw that his palm was covered in blood. Ah! In an instant, the young master screamed in agony. His screams were heart-wrenching, as if he had suffered a huge blow. Immediately after, the young lord screamed like he was possessed. Save me. I'm bleeding. My flawless face has been ruined. Ah! How am I supposed to face people in the future? The young master touched his face, and his eyes were filled with panic. He didn't even care about the pain on his face anymore. Instead, he was worried about how his face would look like. Lin Fan frowned. Was he sick in the head? His face was just slightly damaged, so why was he screaming like that? Not long later, the young master stared at Lin Fan in rage. You dare to hit me? Do you know who I am? How dare you hit me? When he said these words, he was about to cry. He had never experienced such a thing before. But it really happened in front of his eyes, and his body personally felt the pain. Ha! Lin Fan slapped him once more and warned, Be careful of what you say. Don't act cool. This slap stunned the young master once more. His entire person seemed to be lifeless. The young master turned his head, and his eyes were filled with confusion, like he was thinking about something. He slowly turned his head and stared with bloodshot eyes. You hit me? Ha! Lin Fan felt like this person was sick in the head. He slapped so loudly, but he actually asked if he dared to hit him. This was obviously something that was obvious. Are you sick in the head? Can't you feel whether or not I hit you? Lin Fan said. Ah! The young master hugged his head and screamed in terror, like he didn't expect this to happen. His screams were as tragic as they could be. The servants who were suppressed by Lin Fan looked on in fear. They didn't expect that this person would actually dare to attack the young master. Moreover, the young master was beaten up so badly that his face was unrecognizable. Compared to his looks from before, the difference was just too huge. They knew that something huge was about to happen. Stop! The old man's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He was the one who protected the young master when he went out, but he didn't expect such a thing to happen. The old man didn't hesitate and his aura exploded. With a loud explosion, the ground shook and he charged towards Lin Fan. Now that something happened to the young master, he was the one who didn't protect him well. Naturally, he would be punished when he returned. Maybe only by taking him down could he make up for his mistakes and avoid physical pain. I'm talking about life with your young master. So why are you butting in? Scram to the side. Lin Fan took a single glance and kicked out with his leg. The might of this kick was extraordinary and terrifying to the extreme, causing the entire space to contort. The old man was shocked. There was a loud explosion. Poochie! The old man felt that his stomach was badly injured. The blood in his body boiled, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. How is that possible? The moment he said this, he flew backward and smashed into the trees. The giant trees were smashed one after another. In the end, his body fell to the ground and formed a deep moat. Who are you? The old man was shocked. His eyes opened wide like he had seen a ghost. He was so strong at such a young age, and he couldn't fight back at all. Suddenly, it was like he thought about someone. You are... Before he finished, he felt like his body was about to explode, and he fainted. When the servants around saw this, they were all so frightened that they were about to cry. They had never experienced such a thing before. Even the top expert by the young master side was suppressed so easily. They wanted to ask, who else could be his opponent? At that moment, Lin Fan looked at the people around. To him, these people were really weak. At most, they were just rage points. As for the rest, they were useless and had no use at all. To them, His gaze was simply terrifying to the extreme. It was as if their hearts were being gripped tightly by someone. With just a little strength, they would be instantly crushed. Now, they were unable to guess what his gaze meant, but they felt like it wasn't anything good. Suddenly, one of them seemed to understand something. He raised his hand and struck the back of his ear. I fainted. He laid on the ground and didn't move at all. When Lin Fan saw this, he nodded his head in satisfaction. He didn't expect people to be so smart. He didn't say anything and they knew what to do. It was indeed not bad. Those servants who didn't faint looked on with their mouths agape. They didn't expect that there would be such a smart person in their group. Oh my God, why didn't they think of such a good idea from the start? But even now, it wasn't too late. Very quickly, some of them learned from that person, knocking themselves out. They cried out, and all of them fainted. Even if some of them didn't do it well and didn't knock themselves out, that wasn't a problem. If they didn't really faint, how could they not act? Such a simple thing. There was no need to think so much. Very quickly, the bunch of servants all fainted. They laid on the ground and didn't dare to move at all. The young master looked on in disbelief. He felt that the servants who could protect him in the past were all wiped out. They even gave up on fighting back. Damn it! Damn it! All of you jerks! Once I go back, I will kill all of you, roared the young lord. The servants who had pretended to be unconscious, upon hearing the young lord's furious words, began to tremble with fear. Some of them even began to think about how to escape this calamity and how to do so. Even at a time like this, you're still putting on an act. Look at you, your daddy here can't stand it. Lin Fan raised his fist and punched the young master's face. The young master cried out. He wanted to protect his face, but he could still feel the pain and the feeling of blood spurting out. Stop. Why do you have to hit my face? Do you have a problem with my face? The young master hugged his head and shouted in rage. Lin Fan didn't say anything and continued to punch the young master's face. He didn't know why he had to stare at his face and punch it. Maybe it was because his face was really beautiful and he didn't like beautiful people. The servants, who had pretended to faint, were shivering. They could hear the sound of fists hitting flesh. They could also hear the young master cry out in pain. It was too tragic. Young master was just too tragic. After a long while, the young master's voice became weaker and weaker. Stop hitting me. Big brother, please don't hit my face. What do you want? Just tell me. But unfortunately, Lin Fan still didn't bother about him. P.S. Singapore is so expensive. The first time he went overseas was given to Malaysia. Chapter 468. Who knew how long he had been hitting for? The ground where young master was lying had formed a deep hole, and the surrounding ground had cracked. These signs were enough to show how tragic the events that had just transpired were. Stop hitting me. Young master's voice was really weak, and he couldn't even lift a finger. But his strong desire to live made him raise his hand with much difficulty to tell Lin Fan to stop. He had really seen a ghost. He felt that he was really unlucky to actually meet such a lunatic who didn't care that he was the young master of heaven-covering demon sect. He gritted his teeth and swore that as long as he lived, he would make him pay a heavy price. How do you feel? Lin Fan retracted his hand and smiled. His tone was like he was hoping to give him a good review. F***CK your mother. Young master hollered in his heart. He lowered his head and his face was really vicious. But when he raised his head, that expression disappeared, and what replaced it was a begging expression. What else could he do apart from begging for mercy? He knew that no matter what he said, it was useless. Lin Fan wouldn't give him any face at all. So what if he was from heaven-covering demon sect? Didn't he see that when he said his background, Lin Fan hit him even more fiercely than before? Lin Fan accepted all the rage points and was in a good mood. Glancing at the young lord, he bent down and grabbed the young lord's ankles, slowly walking towards the darkness in the distance. Save me. Young master's face was filled with despair. He grabbed the ground, and his fingers were covered in dirt. Unfortunately, it was useless. His fingers left deep claw marks on the ground, and slowly they disappeared. A long while later, There was movement. Those servants who were pretending to be unconscious carefully observed the situation around and only dared to get up after ensuring that it was safe. But at that moment, some servants were worried. What should we do? Young master is being dragged away, and we don't know if he is dead or alive. We didn't protect him well, and if we return to heaven-covering demon sect, we will definitely die. Everyone kept silent. They all knew what the outcome would be. Everyone looked at one another, and someone suggested boldly, "Why don't we just run? The world is huge, and apart from the evil alliance, it isn't like we have nowhere to go." Don't you think so? Yeah, that makes sense. I think the same way, too. If we go back, we will die, so why not go all out? Maybe we will have a chance of living. How about Elder Ing, who is by Young Lord's side? The old Ing that they were talking about was the old man who had been suppressed by Lin Fan. At this moment, he had already fainted. It was still a question of when he would wake up. When everyone turned to look at Elder Ing, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly changed. It seemed like he wanted to do something daring. A servant said greedily, "Old Ing is a Tao realm expert, and he is unconscious. This is a good chance for us. If we split Old Ying's cultivation, it will be really beneficial for us." They were too daring. If it was any other time, it would be something unimaginable. But now that the opportunity had come, it all depended on whether they had the guts or not. Usually, when the benefits reached a certain level, people would be tempted to take risks. That was especially true now that the Tao realm experts were completely defenseless and could be slaughtered as they pleased. Their greed had long since been aroused. Subsequently, the sound of dismemberment came from the grove, devouring flesh and blood, refining essence, chi, and spirit. Evil techniques were commonly used by heaven-covering demon sect. As the servants of the young master, naturally, they would receive all sorts of rewards. This evil technique was passed down to them by the young master. Although eating the flesh and blood of Tao realm experts couldn't convert all their energy, it was enough to raise a realm. Next day, Lin Fan didn't continue to beat up the young master. He just smiled. "Don't worry, don't be so afraid. I have no ill intentions towards you." When the young master heard this, he wanted to curse. Damn, no ill intentions. If he really had no ill intentions, would he have done that to him? Damn it. The young master's thoughts slowly calmed down. If he wasn't strong enough to fight him, he would have beaten him up so badly that he would have cried for his parents. "Big brother, it is good that you have no ill intentions. I also have no ill intentions towards you. If you have anything, just tell me. As long as I can do it, I will do it." The young master knew how important it was to swallow humiliation. But to him, this was a humiliation. As the young master of heaven-covering demon sect, he never knew how to swallow humiliation. Often, it was others who swallowed humiliation to save their lives from his hands. "Yeah," Lin Fan nodded. "If I knew, then I wouldn't have suffered so much. But I'm not satisfied with your face. I feel like you don't have a manly aura at all. If I leave a scar on your face, then it would look much better." "Pa!" Just as Lin Fan finished his sentence, young master knelt down on the ground. His head was like a pile driver as he slammed it against the ground. "Big brother, let me off. If you have any requests, just tell me. I just hope that you don't treat me like this." The young master cried. His face was covered in tears, and he didn't even care about his image anymore. Tears and mucus flowed all over his face. He was really frightened. Damn, was this person a demon? He actually wanted to leave a scar on his face, and even said that it would make him look manly. Damn, if he really left a scar, then he might as well just kill him. Even now, his face was bruised and swollen beyond recognition. It was comparable to a pig's head. Lin Fan said helplessly, "You are a man, so why are you always crying? Why is your face so important? Are you relying on your face to earn a living?" The young master was speechless. The other party was right. His position in heaven-covering demon sect was a little high, but that wasn't the main point. The main point was that he really relied on his face to earn a living. Countless geniuses had taken a liking to his looks. Relying on this face to communicate with others was always successful. If his face was really destroyed, he would be completely done for. This was why when he heard Lin Fan say that he wanted to leave a scar on his face, he was really frightened to death. Seeing that the young master didn't say anything, Lin Fan reached out and picked him up like a chicken. Let's go to your sect and be happy. During this period of time, the young master didn't understand why Lin Fan brought him along. Now that he heard that Lin Fan wanted to head to heaven-covering demon sect, he was stunned and then delighted. He didn't expect that Lin Fan actually wanted to bring him back to the sect. No, he had to calm down. No matter what, he had to calm down, and he couldn't act too happy. Otherwise, if Lin Fan saw through it and suddenly didn't want to go, he would really spit out blood. So, he had to calm down. He had to calm down. Big brother, there's no need to go to my sect. Just let me go. I swear to the heavens that I won't tell anyone about this. After all, I'm a person of status. It's shameful for me to suffer outside. Why don't you just let me go? The young master persuaded like he was really thinking about Lin Fan's well-being. Actually, he didn't want to be too direct. He wanted Lin Fan to think that going to heaven-covering demon sect was what he wanted. Lin Fan smiled. That won't do. I've already beaten you up so badly. So how can I not give you a chance to take revenge? Head to your heaven-covering demon sect and let you complain. Someone will help you, and that will fulfill your wish, right? The young master was stunned as he looked at Lin Fan. He didn't expect such a situation to occur. He really wanted to ask Lin Fan what he was thinking. Did he hear wrongly, or did he really become arrogant? He actually dared to head to heaven-covering demon sect alone. Was he so arrogant? Okay, let's go. Imperial Dynasty. King Wudong recruited many experts, but with the current strength of the Imperial Dynasty, it was tough for them to recruit experts above Dao Realm. After all, Dao Realm experts had high standards. In the top sects, they were all elders. But to King Wudong, even if they weren't Dao Realm experts, it was enough. His cultivation wasn't high, and he just needed to slowly raise it. That night, the Imperial Dynasty was really quiet, and the maids didn't dare to come out. Recently, the Imperial Dynasty was really weird, and the nights sent chills down one's spine. The maids said that they had heard terrifying screams at night. No one knew what was going on. But just like that, it was enough to scare them so much that they didn't dare to move at night. In the stone room, evil god, I want to know what the side effects of the ability you gave me are. King Wudong took out the evil god statue and questioned. He felt like he was walking on the edge of danger. The evil god statue was much more spirited than before. The originally empty stone eyes actually shone red. Although it was just a flash, it was enough to show that the evil god statue was slowly changing. Who? So powerful. In such a short period of time, your cultivation has actually reached the void realm. How many innocent people have you devoured? This evil god was right about you. In the depths of your heart, you are more evil than anyone else, and you desire power more. I forgot to tell you that power doesn't come out of nowhere. If you gain something, you will have to pay a price. What you need to pay is just a bit of rationality. Rationality is fake, and it doesn't exist, and it isn't important. Evil God's voice was really dark and sunken, like he was talking about something that didn't matter at all. King Wutong clenched his fists, and his expression changed. Why didn't you say so from the start? Evil God said, Are you going to blame me for not being clear like before? That is your problem, okay? You didn't ask, so why would I remind you? There's no need to worry about these things. Rationality will only limit you. True experts are all crazy. Look at the strength you have now. How strong is it? How shocking is it? But the insightful emptiness realm is not your end. You will become stronger until you become the strongest existence in the world. That is your end. King Wutong frowned. He could sense how dangerous Evil God was, but he had no way back. The temptation of power was just too huge. He couldn't bear to give it up. Especially now, what he needed the most was power. King Wudong turned around and left. He didn't say a single word and just reminded himself. This king must wipe out everything while I still have my reason. P.S. I am back and will work hard to update. Truthfully, this is the only 2 days that I haven't updated in the past 1,000 days. I was a little arrogant. Chapter 469. Big Brother. Are you really going to step into my sect? Young master was stunned and didn't understand what Lin Fan was thinking. Who was he looking down on? It was okay if he looked down on him. After all, he was weak, and he had nothing to say even if he was beaten up. But he really didn't expect that Lin Fan would really come to Heaven Covering Demon Sect. No matter what, Heaven Covering Demon Sect was a top sect in Evil Alliance. Lin Fan said calmly, "What do you think?" Young master looked at Lin Fan and then forwards. If he wasn't blind and didn't see wrongly, that should be the headquarters of Heaven Covering Demon Sect. Lin Fan really brought him here. But he didn't understand what Lin Fan was thinking. Did he come to Heaven Covering Demon Sect to ask to be beaten up? Are you excited? Are you excited? Seeing that young master didn't say anything, Lin Fan opened his mouth and asked. Logically speaking, how could he not be excited? He had suffered so many merciless beatings along the way, and his handsome face was not as good as before. Young master looked at Lin Fan and really wanted to holler. Wasn't that nonsense? How could he not be excited? He was so excited that he was about to ascend to the heavens. As long as he returned to Heaven Covering Demon Sect, he would be totally at ease. If not, he would be so terrified that he would pee his pants. Let's go to your sect. Lin Fan grabbed young master and walked towards Heaven Covering Demon Sect. Heaven Covering Demon Sect was a top sect in Evil Alliance. They had many experts and many Dao Realm experts. Legend had it that the sect leader was a Dao Realm Stage 7 expert. In an era where no one could enter Stage 8 and 9, it seemed like he was half a step into Dao Realm Stage 8. The young master struggled a little and tried to persuade Lin Fan to put him down. If the disciples saw him carrying him like that, he would lose all his face. Lin Fan obviously didn't care about his nonsense. The sect was majestic and gave off a terrifying aura. Just one look, and one knew that this Evil Alliance sect was extraordinary. At the entrance, young master was sure that Lin Fan wasn't joking and he was really here. Big brother, we're already here. So can you let go of me? Can you give me some face? To young master, he felt really pitiful and he didn't know what to say. Naturally, he was in a good mood since Lin Fan brought him to his sect. But now, he was not feeling well at all. Perhaps this was the experience of a F***ed-up life. He felt that he was going to lose a lot of face. Why do you have so many requests? I think this is good enough. Don't think too much. I'll send you in. Lin Fan carried young master with one hand like he was carrying a little chick and walked towards Heaven Covering Demon Sect. The young master's heart was bleeding. He screamed his heart that no one should see this. But more often than not, what they worried about in their hearts would come true. In the distance, the few Heaven Covering Demon Sect disciples walked over. These disciples were chatting. They were just ordinary disciples in the sect. The things they talked about were simple and ordinary. They talked about some gossip and the current situation. But to them, Heaven Covering Demon Sect was a blessing. Because the sect had a young master, there would often be many cute and beautiful girls coming over. Although it had nothing to do with them, at least they could feast their eyes. Suddenly, they were stunned. His eyeballs looked like they were about to pop out, and he almost cursed. They rubbed their eyes, afraid that they were seeing things. Don't you feel that it's the young master? That does seem a little similar. That shouldn't be possible. How could young master be like that? One couldn't blame them for not believing him. Young master was just too famous, and he was a treasure in Heaven Covering Demon Sect. Anyone who dared to offend him would be asking to die. Very quickly, Lin Fan carried the young master and walked past them. He tilted his head and smiled, as if he was greeting them. The few of them couldn't figure out his background and just nodded their heads in a stunned manner. But they just stared at young master. Similar, he really looked similar. But he felt like something wasn't right. Lin Fan was too calm. Even when he stepped into Heaven Covering Demon Sect, he didn't stop them to ask about his identity. Maybe they thought that no one would dare to cause trouble in Heaven Covering Demon Sect. Young master was terrified to death and thought that he was about to be noticed. But shortly after, he realized that the situation was a little different. Those few disciples actually didn't recognize him. Suddenly, other than feeling lucky, he was enraged. Damn it, are you guys blind? I was brought back here in someone's hand. Don't you recognize who I am? You even nodded and greeted him. You were just so dumb. Lin Fan said calmly. I told you that there was no need. Normal people wouldn't be able to recognize you. Young Master was speechless. He actually had nothing to say and didn't know what to say. Then, Young Master said, Big brother, I just want to know why you sent me back to the sect. If you are here to cause trouble, then I advise you not to do that. You can suppress old shadow, which means that you are strong. But if you look down on heaven-covering demon sect just like that, then you are wrong. Lin Fan said, It is okay. I didn't come here for any other reason. I just wanted to quarrel with you. Once I feel better, then I will leave. Young Master didn't reply, and he just laughed in his heart. Quarrel? Leave after I feel better? Stop King dreaming. Just like what he said, if he could leave this place, he would swallow the entire ground. Very quickly. Lin Fan finally stepped onto the foundation of heaven-covering demon sect. He raised his head and looked out. As expected, it was a top sect. Young Master. Just at that moment, someone finally recognized the young master that Lin Fan was carrying. That person was stunned, and his mouth opened wide like he had seen a ghost. He really didn't dare to believe it. Damn, he really saw a ghost. If he wasn't wrong, he was sure that this was young master and not someone else. At that moment, young master really wanted to die. He was recognized. He was really recognized. His voice wasn't soft and attracted the attention of many people around. Who are you? What did you do to our young master? That person looked at Lin Fan and asked angrily. Looking at the current situation, he didn't need to think too much to guess what was going on. Their young master had been kidnapped. Moreover, he was really bold to actually dare to come to heaven-covering demon sect. Did he really think that his sect was easy to bully? Lin Fan didn't bother and just stood there. It was just that he felt a little uncomfortable. These people didn't give much rage points, and there were even some who didn't give him any at all. You aren't popular in the sect, Lin Fan said. Young Master, who felt like he had lost all his face, was totally stunned by Lin Fan's words. He didn't know what Lin Fan meant by that. Not popular? Nonsense. This young master was the most popular person in the sect. Who didn't follow him around like a follower? He could proudly say that if this young master claimed to be the second most popular person in the sect, no one would dare to claim to be the first. Slowly, more and more disciples surrounded him. But regretfully, no one attacked. Only that person scolded him. But seeing that Lin Fan didn't say anything, he didn't say anything. He just looked at Lin Fan with an unfriendly gaze. Lin Fan was a little impatient. Where are the experts from heaven-covering demon sect? Your young master is in my hands. So why isn't there a single person? Although his voice wasn't loud, it spread far and wide. Everyone in heaven-covering demon sect heard it. We are finished. Young master really wanted to dig a hole to hide in. He really didn't expect Lin Fan to be so direct. Couldn't he not be like that? No matter what, he was the young master and he had to give him some face. At that moment, heaven-covering demon sect exploded. Some disciples in the sect were cultivating, and when Lin Fan's words spread into their ears, all of them opened their eyes in shock like they were filled with disbelief. Young master was captured? Moreover, Lin Fan was so bold to bring people back to heaven-covering demon sect. Even if he was asking to die, he shouldn't have done that, right? Even. To them, there were only two possibilities. One was that Lin Fan had a problem with his head, and the other was that he was confident in his own strength. Otherwise, there was no reason for him to say that. Shortly after, they didn't bother about cultivating and just headed into the distance. They had to personally witness it before they would believe it. When the elders of heaven-covering demon sect heard about it, they were all stunned. It was obvious that they didn't expect it either. But no matter what, this was a huge matter. How long? Several auras from heaven-covering demon sect rose into the air and covered the entire sect. They all locked on a Lin Fan. You really are a lunatic. Young master lowered his head, and his face felt a burning pain. He felt that he was high above and had never suffered any humiliation. But now, humiliation had arrived. The entire sect knew that he had been beaten up like a pig. Lin Fan smiled. You are wrong. How can I be a lunatic? Heaven-covering demon sect isn't a terrifying place. I just sent you back to take a look." Shortly after, Lin Fan released young master and stood with his arms behind his back. He was really calm and didn't feel nervous about what was about to happen. He was even a little excited. Who knew how many rage points he would get? Truthfully, the fact that he dared to come to heaven covering demon sect alone stunned the surrounding disciples. They used their brains to think about it. They felt like he was here to die. Suddenly, numerous people appeared in the air. One of them had an eagle-like gaze and hollered, "Who are you? You actually dare to cause trouble in heaven-covering demon sect, and even dare to injure my young master. You are just asking to die." The elder's arrival pushed the atmosphere to its peak. After all, their main pillar was here. They all heaved a sigh of relief. Young master was controlled by Lin Fan. If something unexpected happened, the consequences would be disastrous. That was why no one dared to make a move. It was best to wait for the elders to arrive and let them deal with these matters. "You took so long to come out. I thought that all of you were afraid," Lin Fan said leisurely. These words made everyone dumbfounded. Were they sick in the head? Till now, they still didn't know where he was. Chapter 470. Lin Fan's words were really arrogant, and he didn't hold them in any regard at all. Even if they were in heaven-covering demon sex territory, he was still so lawless. To everyone, he was just too arrogant. A wave of rage points surged towards him. When young master was being taught a lesson, some disciples gloated. But to them, Lin Fan's words were a little too much. They were all disciples of heaven-covering demon sect, and it was okay for him to humiliate young master. But why did he have to drag them along? Thus, when the elder appeared, all of them were furious. They were evil sect disciples to begin with, and their personalities were wild and untamed. Those who were slightly stronger would look down on everyone else. Some of them clenched their fists and cracked. They all wanted to teach Lin Fan a lesson and open his eyes. They wanted him to see blood so that he would know what he could and couldn't say. The elders who appeared were all top experts of heaven-covering demon sect. One of them looked towards young master and said solemnly, "Young master, are you okay?" Although he was an elder and young master was just a disciple. But in terms of status, apart from the sect leader, no one else could compare to young master. Young master didn't want to speak. He didn't even want to say a single word of nonsense. How unbearable. To young master, everything that was happening was like a dream. However, his silence sent a bad signal to the elder. It was as if the young master had suffered a terrible ordeal, causing the young master's willpower to collapse. Logically speaking, such a thing shouldn't have happened. After all, young master had people protecting him, and they weren't weak. But the situation only meant that old shadow had been suppressed. "I am heaven-covering demon sect Elder Black Prison. Who are you?" Black Prison asked about Lin Fan's background once more. Suddenly, an old man beside Elder Black Prison said softly, "Senior brother, don't you think you've seen this person somewhere?" "Eh." Black Prison frowned and looked closely. Instantly, he was shocked. The face in his eyes merged with a portrait. Instantly, he was shocked. "You are Lin Wani's son, Lin Fan. I didn't expect you to actually walk into a trap." He recognized him. He really did. The Alliance wanted to use the four alliances to capture Lin Fan. But as it was too shocking, the four alliances didn't believe it. But what happened later on told them that Lin Wani's son was indeed really strong. He couldn't be left alive. An existence that had to be killed. Lin Fan smiled. "I didn't expect to be recognized." When he said this, he was quite proud, as if he wanted to let others know that his reputation was already so great. Actually, Lin Fan's reputation in the Evil Alliance was really bad. Evil Spirit Old Ancestor was conned by him, and the war between Evil Alliance and Celestial Alliance started because of him. To others, coming to heaven-covering demon sect was the same as walking into a trap. Black Prison said, "Young Master Lin, you are really bold. You actually dare to come to heaven-covering demon sect alone. My young master is in your hands, and you really have something on him. What do you want?" "Pata." Lin Fan kicked young master in front of Black Prison and said calmly, "It doesn't matter. I was just bored and came to take a look at your heaven-covering demon sect. But to me, your heaven-covering demon sect isn't much. These disciples have surrounded me for so long, and no one dares to attack me. How disappointing." Young master wanted to curse. Damn, who did he offend? Why did he have to kick him? Didn't he know that his position in the sect was quite high? To the heaven-covering demon sect disciples, they saw a young master being kicked away like trash, and they didn't know what to say. "Kid, you're asking to die." Black Prison's gaze turned dark and cold. Young master was the face of heaven-covering demon sect, and now that he was treated like that, it was a slap to their faces. From start till now, Lin Fan maintained his calm as he faced heaven-covering demon sect. Even if this was an evil alliance top sect, he wasn't afraid at all. He sensed it carefully. He was surrounded by the rage of the people around. These disciples were all enraged. Perhaps it was because the ridicule just now had struck a chord in their hearts, hurting their self-esteem. Thus, they could only use anger to express their true feelings. "I don't know whether or not I am asking to die, but I can tell you clearly that I came to your heaven-covering demon sect to find trouble," Lin Fan said. His good impression of the top sects was basically zero, or rather, it was negative. The surrounding disciples looked at Lin Fan in rage. At the same time, they were shocked. They had never seen such an arrogant person. Since entering heaven-covering demon sect, they had never seen anyone who dared to cause trouble. They had never even heard of such a thing. "Kid, you are too arrogant. Let me test you." An old man, standing beside Hay, you couldn't take it anymore, and attacked. The surrounding space trembled, and a shocking power burst out, condensing into a black python. The black python opened its bloody mouth and whizzed over. It was obvious that it wanted to swallow Lin Fan. This old man was really strong and had a high status in the sect. His every action was filled with the aura of an expert. Black Prison didn't stop him. He wanted to see how strong this kid was. In just an instant, there was a loud explosion. A shocking explosion reverberated throughout the area. It was like thunder exploding in everyone's ears, causing many disciples' hearts to ring. All the disciples were filled with terror. Too terrifying. They didn't expect that the young master who kidnapped the young master would actually be so terrifying. Shortly after, they saw something that they didn't dare to believe in their entire lives. What? They looked at the scenes in front of them with their mouths agape. The elder who attacked knelt on one knee and used one hand to support himself. The other hand covered his chest, and he coughed intensely. Each time he coughed, a large amount of blood would spurt out. All the disciples didn't dare to believe that this would happen. The elder actually lost. In the blink of an eye, he didn't even have the time to blink, and he ended up like this. That was just too terrifying. Black Prison's expression changed slightly. He had seen everything that had happened just now. He didn't expect this kid to be even more terrifying than the rumors. Didn't they say that he was only at Tao Realm Stage 2? But looking at the situation, how was he only at Tao Realm Stage 2? One kick after another landed on his junior brother's body. Although it looked like a normal kick, the power contained in it was really terrifying. If it landed on the ground, heaven-covering demon sect would have collapsed. This kick is still okay, right? Lin Fan tapped his pants with his fingers. His expression was really calm, like it was just a simple action. Too much. His casual actions totally infuriated the people from heaven-covering demon sect. Large amounts of rage points surged towards him. To Lin Fan, this feeling was just too great. He knew that coming to a top sect to cause trouble was the best way to do things. He was now at Tao Realm Stage 3, and his Tao patterns reached 90. As long as he continued to work hard and accumulate rage points to raise his Tao patterns, his cultivation would naturally soar. If he reached Tao Realm Stage 4, he would be able to beat them up easily. The elder who was kicked to the ground by Lin Fan raised his head. His eyes were bloodshot, and he really wanted to swallow Lin Fan up. The elders at the side couldn't take it. What an arrogant kid. Let me take a look. But this rash elder was stopped by Black Prison. Don't be rash. You aren't his match. Those words were a little insulting. Although you are the senior brother, you can't say that. I am a Tao Realm Stage 5 expert. so how can I not be his match? Junior brother is just half a step into stage 5 and is still considered stage 4. So, it is understandable that he can't beat him. But I'm already so strong. So how can I not be his match? But he had no choice. Black Prison was the senior brother, so he could only retreat in rage. It would be a lie if Black Prison wasn't shocked. If Junior brother hadn't attacked and was suppressed in one move, he wouldn't have dared to believe that Lin Fan was actually so terrifyingly strong. As expected from Lin Wanni's son, young Master Lin's cultivation is really shocking. In the past, I was wondering how Lin Wanni could improve so quickly. It seems like your Lin family is indeed more talented. Young Master Lin also perfectly inherited this shocking talent. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have come to heaven-covering demon sect to cause trouble, and you shouldn't have attacked my young master. Black Prison's voice was really calm, and he wasn't as angry as before. He had the same thoughts as the Alliance. This kid definitely couldn't be left alive. If he was left alive, he would be a problem. Lin Fan smiled. The feeling of being praised was pretty good. However, he really wanted to tell the other party that everything he said was wrong. Just thinking about it made him want to laugh. What talent! His cultivation was all obtained by adding points. Since that was what they thought, then he didn't say anything more. He didn't care what they thought and just let them do what they wanted. Lin Fan waved his hand. Okay, let's not talk so much nonsense. If you want to fight, then hurry up. In my opinion, your heaven-covering demon sect is just SOSO. You are so cowardly. It has been a while since I came here, and I am perfectly fine. I didn't even lose an arm or a leg. Truthfully, it is really disappointing. Damn, the disciples couldn't help but curse. That was just too arrogant. He was just lawless. They couldn't take it anymore. They really couldn't take it anymore. Truthfully, they were proud to be in heaven-covering demon sect, and now someone was slapping their faces. Normal people wouldn't be able to take it. That was just too much. They only had one thought in their hearts, which was that they hoped that Black Prison could teach this arrogant fellow a lesson. It was best if he could kill him on the spot, and then they could use his head as a ball to kick. Black Prison was expressionless, but the wrinkles on his face trembled. It was obvious that Lin Fan's words infuriated him a little. He had seen many arrogant people, but he had never seen someone as arrogant as Lin Fan. Very good. It is normal for young people to be rash, but I want to see how much ability you have. Black Prison said coldly, and then made a hand gesture for him to head to another area to fight. After all, their cultivations were really strong. If they really fought, the area affected would be huge. But Lin Fan was stunned by his actions. What did he mean? He didn't care. Maybe he was going to fight. How long? Lin Fan's aura exploded, and he didn't hide it. His power spread outwards like waves. Fight! Lin Fan hollered. Elder Black Prison was stunned. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.